Hello and welcome everybody. My name is John, also known as Zero Skater 12, and on behalf of Restoration Games, I would like to welcome you all to the conclusion of the Unmatched Summer of Legends 2022 tournament. And we have had a lot of great players and great matches in this event so far, and it all comes down to this. We have 4 players remaining in the event. So I also want to thank the guys at Vorpal Board because we use Vorpal Board to run these events and host them, and it's just a great platform for streaming. So they're very helpful to us with everything, and big thanks to them. And I just want to thank all the players for participating in the event, as well as all of you viewers watching, because you're part of what makes this event so special. So I just thank you all, and I hope you're enjoying it all. But with me today, I have my wonderful commentary team. So let's go ahead and introduce them. We have Sidious256, the half of Defender Resolves First podcast, otherwise known as Big Mike. Mike, how you doing today?
Every day's a good day. Some are better than others. Today's a good day for Unmatched.
That's right. It's always a good day for Unmatched, is it not? And then we have HELPivFALLN. Dylan, how are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. It's early for me today, but always worth it for some Unmatched action.
Oh yeah, love to see it. And then we have Lollipop Magnum. Anar, how are you doing?
Yeah, hello, I'm doing pretty well.
Excellent. Well, thank you all again for joining me. I couldn't do this alone. It's a big job, so I appreciate your help here, and I hope you're looking forward to it. I know I am. We're going to have some great matches. But a little bit about the tournament and what we've done here. We started off with 96 players, and the structure of the tournament was that we had 16 pools of 6 players per pool. Those players faced off against each other round-robin style, and you got a point for every game you won, and you would play 2 games against each opponent. Then the top 2 players would move on to the elimination bracket. That was single elimination, 32-player bracket. So it went from 32 down to 16, down to 8, and now we are down to the final 4, which is going to be Unmatchad versus TDCJason, which we are about to see. And then later on today, we will have Baked Goods versus Darkblade. So 4 fantastic players. They've all been either at this level or close to it in the past multiple times. So very consistently high-level players, and it's going to be awesome. Quite a spectacle to watch, if I do say so myself. But we are using the Arsenal format here, and Arsenal is a new format that we introduced to competitive play rather than doing the same old Conquest of the past. And in Arsenal, each player is picking a roster of fighters, and of course you cannot have any mirrors, so you can't have the same fighter on your roster as your opponent. So they're going through a drafting phase currently where they will hidden pick 4 fighters and then reveal them, and any revealed fighters that are the same on each side are banned out. And then you will repeat the process until you have 4 fighters on your roster for each player. At that point, you're going to assign a fighter secretly to each of 3 games because we're doing a best of 3. And you don't know which fighter your opponent is putting on which game, but everything is assigned up front, and then you reveal, and then you'll go through a series of map bans and map picks as well to determine all the games that are going to be played up front, and then you'll play through them, and the best player wins. So it's quite a fun format. If anybody wants to try it out themselves, there is a lot of information online you can find about it, especially on the Discord. So it's very fun. I would recommend trying it. But let's open it up for some discussion. I want to ask Mike, I know you've really been looking forward to this match in particular, more so than some of the others. And so do you have a favorite to win it here?
I do. I want to say my favorite is probably going to be Jason. I love Mr. Chad as much as everybody else, but I've been pretty much in contact with Jason throughout the whole tournament. We've been talking a lot, and I'm very excited for what he's going to bring to the table today.
Excellent. All right, Dylan, how about you? You got a favorite here?
Well, Jason was in the same group as me. Although he did 0-2 me in our group, you gotta go for Group E. So I'm gonna go for Jason.
All right. Anar, how about you?
I want to say that Jason and Chad are both brilliant players, and I'm hoping here for some spicy unmatched games, but I will be rooting for Chad as well. Chad is a very nice player, and I watched him before in all the tourneys, So that's why I'll be rooting for him.
Yes, okay. It's really hard for me to pick. Personally, I've played a lot of Unmatched with Chad. I've played against Jason just a couple of times, but Chad is also kind of the co-host of one of my new YouTube series, Matchup of the Month, so I might be a little biased towards Chad, and I've also faced off against him in the finals of last tournament, Winner of Champions. But they're both fantastic players and have made a great tournament run so far. And just a couple of side notes on the players themselves. I know Jason in particular, he has made it to the top 8 of multiple tournaments and always just barely loses out before he gets on stream. So we'll see if, the pressure of being on stream affects his gameplay at all. Personally, I don't think it will, because I think he's no stranger to competitive play in general. Other card games he's played competitively, such as Magic and Verse System. And I know with Verse System in particular, he actually won money from that game, and it helped him pay through college, he told me. So very impressive. So he's no stranger to competitive play, so can't write him off whatsoever. And Dylan, do you have any extra info on Jason as far as anything about him as a player or what his preferences might be since you were in his group?
Well, he's very vocal about the timer system that we're using in this Arsenal format. He claims that he hasn't nearly gotten out of time, but it does affect his game plan, so he's got to take that into consideration.
That's a great point. Yeah, the timer can get to us all. I know personally it's gotten to me before. It adds a layer of stress onto the gameplay for sure, because you got to be able to make good plays quickly. You can't just take forever to make your plays, and it definitely adds another layer of stress. Let's see. As far as fighter picks go, I think we can expect to see the big 4, people are calling them, banned out, which would be Sherlock, Electra, Medusa, and T-Rex most likely. But there could be some room for maybe a Yananga or Bigfoot pick in their round 1. Mike, I guess you've talked with Jason a bit. Do you have any idea what his plan might be?
Well, I think you're right about that. We all know, or we may not all know, but maybe some insight. Jason's really a big Bigfoot fan. He's also a huge fan of, dare I say it, the Beowulf. That is, if I'm going to be bold in saying this, he's probably the best Beowulf player of Unmatched as of right now. I want to see the spicy pick. Will it happen? Probably not. I want to see the spicy pick, but I could see the Bigfoot swapping in there. He really enjoys the character.
Sure. And who knows, with enough bans, we very well may see the Beowulf come out from Jason. And I personally would love to see that as well, because his Beowulf play is quite impressive. So they should be doing their drafting as we speak, and as soon as we get that info, we'll go ahead and talk about the fighter rosters that they have. Dylan, I guess again, since you were in Jason's pool, is there any interesting info that you have on him as just a person in general?
Just as a person in general, I am glad that you asked. Well, the thing I'm most envious of him is that he participates in combat archery every week. He, on his personal Twitter, he posted some links on what that looks like, and I wish I could join, as I'm quite envious of that. And in case you didn't know, he is a game designer as well. So he's made some games in the previous, like he's designed sets for Elder Scrolls Legends, and hopefully the unannounced games that he claims in the future, I'm looking forward to him.
Awesome. Yeah, he's definitely deep into the gaming industry, and that might, give him an edge. He definitely has a lot of experience with the competitive card games, like I mentioned before. But Chad is quite the player. I know he made his debut in the Battle of Legends Volume 2 release Rumble, and back then he was somewhat of a dark horse, you could call him. He was a new player, up and coming, and he ended up making it to the finals of that event and faced off against Wandering Caretaker, and he barely lost a close match in Game 5. And since then, Chad's gone on to place very high in all of the events. I mean, the next event was the Winter of Champions tournament earlier this year, in which he again made it to the finals and faced off against myself. So Chad is a two-time back-to-back runner-up champion, we'll say. And I'm sure this time he is ready. He's coming back with a vengeance, and he's ready to take it all the way. So it's going to be quite a match. Now, Anar, you participated in the event as well. Let's talk a little bit about the Arsenal format. I mean, how do you feel about it as a whole?
Oh, I love Arsenal. I think it's very nice kind of,
Very dynamic,
like
right?
interaction. Yeah, interaction between players. So, like in Conquest, so there are actually there's a lot of space for mind games, because you are picking fighters. They are actually blind, and you cannot run into a situation when you pick Yenenga, your opponent picks Sinbad, and you go, okay, I need to play those matchup, and you cannot do nothing about that. In Arsenal, you can pick Yenenga, your opponent picks Sinbad, and there is no 100% chance that you're going to face Sinbad in those match. So that's why I love Arsenal very much. But it opens up a lot of space for movement, I can say. There are a lot of bans and so on. That's why this particular option for drafting fighters is much appreciated by me.
Yeah, I would agree. It's a very dynamic format because, like you said, you can kind of avoid counter picks in a way because there's no guarantee that those counter picks are going to actually line up into the fighters that you want them to, and that makes a bit of a risk in even trying for the counter picks because oftentimes counter picks are weaker into a lot of other matchups, and so you're almost at a disadvantage if you miss on that. And that's pretty cool. It's a fun part of the format. So, Mike, talking about Arsenal, now Chad has obviously proven himself already in Conquest, but how do you think he's going to perform in Arsenal? Do you think that new format change affects his gameplay at all as far as how he's going to perform?
The only thing that I think you can get out of that of will my gameplay change at all is you don't want to, what I say, quote unquote, get Arsenal, kid. You don't want that matchup to just be the wrong one that you set into place. And if you get Arsenal, that might affect how well you do in your game. You know, you might be thinking, I'm Sinbad into Dracula, and it's just not going to be a good day. You're going to have a bad day. But other than that, I don't think so. I think we all know Chad's a wonderful player. As you said multiple times, he's made it this far. I think it's more so what might be the nerves is, who am I putting where?
Right. Yeah, and that's always the hard part. You can never fully know what to do. It's kind of a gamble, always. Now, like we've talked about with Arsenal, there's an opportunity for a lot of fighter bans. And once you ban so many of the top tier fighters, you're going to have to play more off the beaten path fighters, some of the lower tiers. And people, oftentimes, they don't practice those fighters as much, at least at the competitive level. And I think Chad in general has been playing more extensively than Jason, and so I think he's more of a generalist, which I think is favored in Arsenal because you might not get to play your favorite fighters. So Jason is a very, very good player, but I know he likes to stick with a handful of fighters. And again, Mike, with how much you've talked to him, I mean, do you think he is going to be able to get out of his comfort zone and play the fighters, that he might not so much be wanting to play?
That's such a hard question, man. Why are you laying it on thick
Well,
like
you
that?
you said you've had a lot of discussion with him throughout the event.
I know.
So.
I think this is the time to try to stay away from the crazy picks, if you will. I'm saying crazy because in retrospect to Jason, it's out of normal. As far as for Jason, I would hope that he eventually gets something like Bigfoot, Beowulf, probably Sinbad because he's a fan of that, and then XYZ character that, maybe a Medusa if, Chad let that through for some reason. that would probably be what he's aiming for. I don't foresee him going deep into like Marvel too much because he says he doesn't really play that. I don't foresee him going Buffy at all because let's be
It's
real.
Buffy.
And then it's Buffy. And then, you know, just things that are out of his comfort zone. I think if Chad is smart, he will try to push Jason deeper and deeper into the draft to get that hand up, as you said. You know, we all know Chad gets in there. So
Yep.
I'm very interested to see what we end up with.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the deeper into the roster that Chad can push the draft, the better off he's going to be, just because he is a bit more of a generalist. But it does look like we have the fighter rosters here. So, all right. So Jason is going to have Beowulf, Mike. So you get to see that. He is also having Sinbad. He also has Sinbad, like you had guessed. And then he does have Little Red and the T-Rex. So that is a bit of a surprise to me because I don't think Jason is much of a red player or Rex, but we all know how powerful T-Rex can be. And then on Chad's side, he's going to have Ghost Rider, Alice, Wukong, and Moon Knight. So, wow, what a lineup there.
Those are great lineups.
Yes. So I know Chad is a huge Moon Knight fan because of how generalized Moon Knight is. I mean, he's very versatile into a lot of different matchups and has no real weaknesses. He can pretty much handle anything other than Wukong, which is why I'm guessing Chad ended up picking the Wukong himself as an attempt at a ban. And, you know, if it doesn't get banned, he gets to play it, and we all know how strong Wukong is as well. So, Dylan, how much of a problem do you think that Wukong might be to Jason, given his roster? I mean, he's got Beowulf.
What was Jason's roster again?
Yeah, he has Beowulf, Little Red, Sinbad, and the T-Rex.
Well, hopefully he gets if Jason wants to take this, he wants to play his T-Rex strategically, because I think the T-Rex has pretty good matchups against Chad's entire roster, for the most part anyway. The other characters, it's kind of an uphill battle, but I think Jason has the knowledge to at least have a fighting chance.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. I think the T-Rex is... The problem with T-Rex is she is so strong, especially when you put her on advantage. Advantage meaning you get the map and the position pick. And so you're going to go on a favorable map and you're going to pick to start first and just get that aggression out turn one. And she can really just eat fighters alive, honestly. She's very deadly. But it does make your assignments a bit predictable, because as we talked about in Arsenal, you're going to, now that we have the rosters, the players are going to flip their cards over and they're going to shuffle them up, and they're secretly going to put down a fighter to line up for each game, and you don't know what your opponent is doing. So T-Rex, though, if it's on disadvantage, is much less effective, so it almost telegraphs to Chad that Jason will likely put the T-Rex on advantage. So, Anar, with that, if you're in Chad's position and you're assuming, you know, that Jason is going to put T-Rex on advantage, who do you think would be your choice of fighter to put on your disadvantage from Chad's side?
All right, thank you for the question. I think from these fighters, if I were Chad, I would actually put Alice on the T-Rex. Yeah, I think she's got a decent shot against the T-Rex, especially when she's small. And also Moon Knight can work pretty well, but not as good as Alice, because Alice can actually stay longer in her small size and get this +1 on defense values, which is very great against. And also Alice had a lot of movement effects on her cards, which is really nice against T-Rex.
Definitely.
Yeah,
it lets you get away, right? So you kind of avoid double attacks by using your movement.
Yeah, sure.
So I think Alice is a good pick as well. And Alice, the cool thing about her is, like you mentioned, you can be small to give yourself the defense buff. T-Rex comes to attack you, you play one of your defense cards that is +1, and also has a movement and a size change, so you can move adjacent to the T-Rex, because if you're unfamiliar, T-Rex is the first and only large fighter in Unmatched as of yet. And large fighters, they occupy 2 spaces on most maps The only time they don't occupy 2 spaces is when the figure actually doesn't reach between the 2 spaces, but those spaces are few and far between, so you're almost always occupying 2 spaces instead of 1, and you also have an extended attack range of 2 spaces, so you can have a space of gap in between you and your opponent and still attack. And that makes it very hard to counterattack T-Rex because you have to spend your first action to maneuver up adjacent to her and then attack. So with Alice, when you play that size change movement card on defense, you get a strong defense, you move adjacent with your effect. Now it changes you to Big Alice, and Big Alice gets +2 on her attack, so then you can hit hard as your first action and then maybe maneuver away as the second action, or you can hit hard twice, and with that second attack, since T-Rex has no cancels, you guarantee that you can hit with a size change card on your second attack that will move you away and turn you back to small. So it's kind of like a dance back and forth of Big and Small Alice, and you get a lot of pluses to your cards by doing that. So I think I would agree with Alice on disadvantage. Now, Dylan, we have seen Jason before on even his previous top 8 match. He chose to put T-Rex on disadvantage. And what he ended up with there was that he had to face Dracula on Sarpedon, which is a very large map. And with Dracula having the sisters able to block off the bridges, made it very, very difficult for T-Rex to get in often enough to finish Dracula off, even though Drac doesn't have a lot of defenses. So, I mean, I think Jason's plan there was to avoid telegraphing where he's going to put the T-Rex, right? Now, since he has that track record, do you think that Jason is going to put Rex on advantage, which is obviously the strongest and most optimal way to play Rex, or do you think he's going to switch it up once again?
Well, in my opinion, you either play Rex on advantage, or you probably don't play Rex at all. Jason tried the disadvantage Rex, and it didn't work. He got it close, but 3 health on Dracula depends on how much sisters. I unfortunately didn't watch the match, so I don't know the final outcome, but I just don't think that T-Rex on disadvantage is worth it. Because the mind games of the potential Rex definitely influence what Chad's going to do, and maybe Jason will use that to his advantage.
Yeah, that's a great point, because if Jason assumes that Chad is going to assume Rex will be on advantage, and like we talked about, maybe that means Chad wants to put Alice there, well, he can put his best fighter against Alice on his advantage instead. And that's kind of the mind game that you can run into with Arsenal, and it makes it a lot of fun, and it's very exciting. So, Mike, what do you think Jason's gonna do? Is he gonna put the Rex, or is he gonna not play it at all?
Seeing his other fighters, he's just so much more familiar with. I personally don't know if Rex would come out, but also you look at some of those. You know, you hear some of those fighters. There's a lot of losing matchups in there. Sinbad doesn't have much of a great matchup into, Moon Knight or Sun Wukong, if you ask me personally.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a reason he's this far. Maybe he's been planning this. But I personally don't foresee Rex coming out at all.
Okay.
That's just personal opinion.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that, honestly. Rex looks like more of a scare pick, and honestly, he probably picked Rex in anticipation of a ban, and Chad willingly let the T-Rex through. So, yeah, I could see Jason just foregoing Rex altogether. But like you mentioned, Mike, the Sinbad is looking like a rough pick as well, because he doesn't do well into Wukong. He does not do too well into Moon Knight either, and I guess Alice and Sinbad is a pretty even matchup, but Ghost Rider, I think, does well against Sinbad because Sinbad has to constantly approach, and Ghost Rider can use his ability to run through Sinbad and deal free damage. So it's going to be tough, because if Jason doesn't play Rex, he has to play Sinbad, because you must assign 3 out of your 4 fighters since you are playing 3 games. So that's going to be quite the toss-up there. Now, looking at the Beowulf, I mean, he also is going to struggle probably against Wukong, and I would think Moon Knight as well. Anar, do you have any experience with Beowulf into any of those fighters?
Yeah, I have experience with Bear against Wukong, and I
Okay.
can say it's pretty. I think Bell struggles against Wukong and his clone wall. He can do nothing because he is not very mobile. All of his options to clear up these clones is using Wiglaf and Spin to win just for this. But I can't see Bell winning those matchups.
Yeah.
What about Moon Knight against Wukong? I think Moon Knight have more chances against Wukong because he have some options to move through fighters, but it's only 2 cards in his deck.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. I can definitely see Beowulf struggling there. How about the Beowulf Moon Knight matchup? That one's an interesting one if we see that. Because I think Beowulf, Equal of Grendel, is one of his biggest cards, you know, the defense that reflects the attack damage onto the opponent. But Moon Knight, when he's Khonshu form, he gets +2 to his attack like Big Alice, and he doesn't take any damage outside of combat damage. So he can negate the Grendel right there and hit really big over essentially a blank 3 value defense. So it's looking a little dicey, I think, on either side because, well, I think Little Red is going to do well for Jason against everybody but Moon Knight. But I think his other fighters definitely could struggle depending on how the assignments go. And so I do honestly think Chad has the upper hand in this roster draft so far.
I would agree. I would agree heavily. I will say there's one thing we're all forgetting, and that's that Jason likes taking Beowulf into Sherlock. And anybody who does that, I trust your Beowulf. Anybody who wants to do that purposefully, you've got my vote, pal.
So, well, with that said, Mike, do you think Beowulf is going to go on Jason's advantage then? Because if that's his biggest comfort pick. Oh, you think disadvantage, huh?
I think he likes Beowulf in every sense. I think I've known him for a little bit. I wouldn't say I know him extensively, but something we often talk about is whenever I see him, I always bring up how good is a fighter is Beowulf. And he always looks at me and he goes, "He's a good fighter, man. He can play anybody. People underestimate him. People underestimate him." And I tell you what, I've seen his gameplay plenty of times with Beowulf. It's terrifying. I don't know how he would do it against Wukong. I would assume exhaustion play is what I would try to go for personally. But I'm hoping to see it. I'm hoping he comes out with it, and I'm hoping it's a great matchup. I'm hoping I've not been hyping this up for nothing, because I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it.
I'm sure it's going to be a great match regardless. Jason's not going to go down without a fight, even if he's at a disadvantage with the matchups. But I think this just, again, goes back to Chad being more of a generalist, because we see Jason with mostly comfort picks, right? I mean, at least Beowulf and Sinbad are heavy comfort picks on his end. Little Red, maybe not so much, and maybe not T-Rex, but half of his roster being comfort picks is very good. And Chad really, I think Moon Knight is his only real comfort pick there. I think the other 3 are just, he felt like they were favorable matchups. So, Dylan, when you're playing Arsenal, I mean, do you try to just line up favorable matchups more so as like a generalist would, or do you have comfort picks that you like to stick with?
So generally what I do in the Arsenal format, and granted it didn't get me very far.
Well, you were
but
up
what I
against
like
Jason,
to do,
right?
well, yeah, that's true. I got 2-0'd by Jason. But I usually like to pick characters that I don't want to face off against. So if I'm picking, let's say, first draft is I got Yananga, I'll pick Sinbad because I don't want to face a guy against Sinbad. It's generally not characters I want to play, but characters that I don't want to play against. So I'm the counter pick kind of character,
Sure.
the kind of person.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess before you can counter pick, you got to lock in a couple of picks that you do want to play first, right? Because otherwise you don't know what to even try to ban. So
Yeah.
that's looking like what Jason did here. He probably got the Beowulf and the Sinbad early, and then he was like, well, I don't want to play against T-Rex, so I'm going to pick T-Rex and try to ban. Although he also may have gotten the Beowulf and Little Red early, and then picked Sinbad as both a comfort pick and a ban, which is, I think, an excellent strategy because Sinbad does well into both of them. Now, Anar, With Chad's Ghost Rider, I know Ghost Rider is another fighter similar to T-Rex that really wants advantage because you want to make sure you can get a small map that you're going to be able to use your ability more often than not. So do you think that telegraphs anything at all to Jason as far as how Chad's going to assign his fighters?
So what about Ghost Rider? Yeah, I agree with you. He needs advantage to regain his mobility and so on. But with Chad's lineup, I think he got a lot of options as Jason, so he can put Wukong on his advantage to be more confident with those picks. But for Ghost Rider, I cannot see he doing well against Beowulf because he just gives him free rage every time he moves through. But I can see he doing well against maybe Lil Red because I practice this matchup a lot and it's actually 50-51.
Okay.
But many of other people would say that it's red favored, but it depends on the map actually.
Sure.
So that's why I think Chad is going to pick Wukong more likely on his advantage.
Okay. Yeah, so if he's not going to put Ghost Rider on his advantage, do you think we're going to see him assign Ghost Rider at all or just leave that one off the table?
I actually don't think so.
Yeah.
There are a lot of good options.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's just a similar situation as Jason has with Rex, where you really want that fighter on advantage, but if they don't have a lot of great matchups, then it makes you telegraphed, so you might be better off just foregoing that fighter. So it's going to be interesting to see. I guess we have a little bit more information. So Jason is going to be the leader, which means he's going to play his advantage game first. So it's going to be Jason's advantage and then Chad's advantage, and then the third game, if we get to that point, is going to be the neutral game, we call it, which is a split advantage. And split advantage, rather than full map and position pick, one player gets each. So with Jason being the leader, that's going to give him positional advantage, but Chad being the follower gets the map advantage. So Chad is going to get to pick the map after a map ban of Jason's, of course. But I think that map is a little bit stronger of an advantage, but then again, you are the follower, which means you're playing your advantage game second. So Dylan, how much of a mental impact do you think it makes with Jason being the leader, seeing that he gets to play his advantage game first?
Well, it all depends on how you do in the first game. Like, if you win the first game, you're on the momentum. You're on the up and up. So if you lose the first game, it's kind of tough because you're already in that mental state where, like, okay, now I have to win this next game and win the next game after. Meanwhile, if you win the first game, you're in a more comfortable position.
Exactly. And being leader, well, not leader, but having advantage in that first game, right, as the leader, you're more likely to win than not, I would say, because full advantage does make quite a bit of difference. So with Jason, if he can take that first game, I think it does put Chad on the back foot in a mental aspect. But Mike, how much do you think that's going to actually affect Chad? Do you think it will, because we're all human, of course, or do you think he's got enough experience at this top level, you know, playing in the finals and whatnot, that it's not going to phase him?
I don't think it will phase him at all. I think what you kind of said it matters most, and that's if you get your advantage off. I mean, if you get what you wanted against the opponent you wanted, it makes a big difference. I personally like to be follower in all my games of Arsenal. I didn't make it as deep as the rest of the people here, but I made it further than I ever have been in this format, and being follower just feels so much better because I know the first game might get trashed, but my second game's coming up and I'm gonna just grind it out with what I think I should win and go from there. Very few times did I have the results not how I wanted it to be because of me not being on advantage. I don't see that from Chad. I see him performing well throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, I think I would agree. He's been at this, playing at this level long enough. And Follower does, I think, have a little bit of an advantage. Not a ton, but slightly. So getting that map pick in that third neutral game, if it comes to that, is going to be very important. Now, with Jason being leader, and you don't know that up front is the thing, right? When you're assigning your fighters, you have to do all that before you know whether or not you're going to get map pick on that neutral game, the third game. So I do think that Jason has 3 fighters, so Beowulf, Red, and Sinbad, that don't care too much about the map. So I wouldn't be surprised to see one of them on neutral, although there is the chance that you could go T-Rex on neutral just to switch things up. And neutral is definitely better than disadvantage, because you're either going to get a map pick of your choice, so you can pick something very tight that Rex can get to you very easily and very often. Though if you get the map pick, you will go second, but I still think Rex has the damage output to do fine going second. And if you don't get the map pick, at least you get to go first, and though it might be a big map, something like Sarpedon, you can at least put Rex going first and try to get that early health lead and just put the pressure on right off the bat. So, Anar, do you think there's any chance that maybe Jason did put Rex on the neutral game?
Yeah, I agree with you that putting T-Rex on advantage is very telegraphed. That's why we have an option to put him on neutral game. But it's actually a very risky thing, because when we have split advantage with T-Rex, we wanted to have more map than position. Yeah, we want to take the tight map to reach out our opponent. So that's why putting actually T-Rex on. If I recall correctly, leader has map pick, yeah, in this
Leader
format.
gets position on the neutral game. Follower gets the map pick.
All right. So that's why putting T-Rex on neutral is very risky, but I don't think Jason will put him in those cases.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't think Jason's a risky player. I think he plays very safe and calculated. Mike, would you agree there?
I think this far into it, I think if we were still in groups, that might be a different question. But I think as far as we are, I don't think he wants to take the risk. Or maybe he's thinking the exact opposite. Maybe he's thinking, Chad's just such a great player. I need to take the risk to throw him off and get my win another way. But I just don't see it. I see him going with his comfort picks, which he has. I think he has 2 for sure of his comfort picks. I just can't see it another way, I guess.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think Jason's the kind of person, though, to take a risk, or at least to feel like he has to take a risk in order to win. I think he's confident in his play and his skill, and even though he knows Chad is a good player, I think Jason's confident enough that he doesn't feel the need to take those risks. Though it is interesting, because I don't believe these two have played Unmatched together at all. At least in competitive play, I know they have not for sure, and I don't even know that they've played just casually or for fun or practice or anything. So it's going to be really interesting, because 2 fantastic players that have never faced each other before. It's going to be something to see. So I know the other semifinal coming up later after this one is going to be Baked Goods versus Darkblade, and I know they have played against each other before in competitive play, though I don't believe in this event so far, but in other events they have, and I believe Baked Goods came up on top in that one. But with these two not having played against each other, anything can happen. So Dylan, how much of an impact do you think it makes going up against somebody who you have not played against before?
It's always tricky, because you're basically going in somewhat blind. You only have your fundamentals to rely on. Because if you played with somebody, some tricks that they do, like, they regrouped typically turn 1 or turn 2 when they attack and whatnot. But playing such a great player when you haven't never even played a friendly before, it's tricky. So you got to rely on your fundamentals to bring you ahead.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There are some little things that you can pick up on while playing against an opponent. And me personally, with how much practice I've had with Chad, We know each other so well. Like when we play, we're always calling out what the other person is doing, and we're almost always right. But going up against an unknown, you know, you have no idea, and that just really makes it difficult to, you know, like you said, you got to just rely on your fundamentals and just play a good game and see what happens. You can't win them all, you know, the combat interactions in this game being hidden information. You can never make the right calls 100% of the time. So just going to have to analyze the game state and the matchup and try to make the best call that you can given the information that you do have. So I believe they are just assigning the fighters right now, and we just need to get that information for the maps. And then we should be off to the races. We'll go ahead and highlight some of the decks once we get to that point. But while we're waiting, I do want to show off a little video for anybody who might be new to Unmatched. And, you know, this is just going to be a short video showing what the game is all about. And so if there's anybody out there has not jumped in, you know, that you stumbled upon this stream and you're like, this looks pretty cool, high quality, at least production here. What's this game all about? Well, let's show you a little bit about how to play Unmatched. Unmatched is a card-based tactical fighting game featuring various characters from history, literature, and fantasy. The goal? Reduce the opposing hero's health to 0. Players take turns performing any combination of 2 actions, from maneuvering, scheming, or attacking. A maneuver causes the player to draw a card from their deck and lets them move any of their fighters around the board. They may increase the distance of their move by discarding a card known as a boost. When a scheme card is played, simply follow the text on the card to complete the action. For an attack, the turn player will choose a card from their hand to place face down for combat. The opponent will have the option to place one of their cards down as defense. The value on the cards will determine the damage dealt in combat. Melee fighters can only attack adjacent spaces, while ranged fighters can also attack any space within their color-coordinated zone. Some characters have sidekicks to help them out, and others fight solo. Each hero has their own unique abilities and deck of cards to bring the character to life. Because in battle, there are no equals. All right, and there you have it. That's Unmatched for you in a nutshell. It's just an excellent game. It's so thematic. The way Restoration Games is able to take a character from lore or whatever it may be and put them into their own adaptation into this game is just incredible. I think every character is just so thematic, and that's amazing. And just the amount of different matchups that you can get in this game is so cool, and it's just growing constantly, right? We have, I believe, maybe, 32, 34 fighters or so right now, and the roster just keeps getting bigger. And with IP sets and public domain both, I mean, there's something for everybody to love, no matter who you are. So I would highly recommend getting into the game, trying it out if you haven't already. It's super easy to pick up and learn and just start playing. Obviously, at this high level that we are seeing right now, it's very, very complex and quite difficult, but it's super easy to pick up and play, and anybody can just have a blast playing casual games. And, you know, if you want to get into competitive play, if that appeals to you, then go for it, I would say, because we're all new at some point, right? Like I talked about before, Chad was pretty much an unknown just not even a year ago in the Battle of Legends Volume 2 release Rumble, and look at him now. I mean, he's a back-to-back finalist, and now he's back to the semis. Maybe he will be a 3-time finalist, and yeah, I mean, anything can happen. So if you want to get into the game, whether it be casual or competitive, I would just highly, highly recommend it. Now, one thing, Dylan, that you had mentioned briefly, and I want to talk a little bit more about, is the timer. You had mentioned, you know, how Jason is a very methodical, like calculated player. He takes his time to think through things, right? And the timer can put some stress on you there because you don't have all the time in the world to think. So the way the timer works, for anybody who's unfamiliar, is that both players are starting with a time bank of 5 minutes. Now, when your turn starts, your time bank is going to start depleting from 5 minutes. And then when you put down an attack card, we will pause the timer for combat interactions. So that means while your opponent is thinking of what defense card to play, the timer is paused, and then once you reveal the cards, resolve the combat with damage and all effects, then the timer is resumed. And once you're done with your turn, we click the timer, it passes over to the opponent, and then starts counting down from their time bank of 5 minutes. Now at the end of your turn, you're going to get refunded some time, and that is going to be upwards of 1 minute refund each time. So you don't actually get to go above where you started, so you're going to gain either the amount of time you took that turn or the 1 minute, whichever is less. So you can never get above 5 minutes. But once the time runs out, your 5 minute time bank has ran out, it will force you to end your turn right where you're at. So regardless of how many actions you've taken or where your fighters are positioned, you will be locked in place there, and any remaining actions that you have available to you will be forced as maneuvers, which means you'll draw your card, and then if you happen to overdraw, because the hand limit in this game is 7 cards, so if you have more than 7 at the end of your turn due to an overdraw, then you're just going to have to discard any of the cards drawn. Now, throughout the event, so far we have had the penalty for running out of time was just a straight game loss. And that is a little bit harsh. So for the finals, we wanted to change it up a little bit, and after some feedback that we've gotten, I think that is probably the way to go, is to make the penalty, running out of time. It's just going to end your turn rather than straight up lose you the game. And that very well may cause you to lose the game, but at least it doesn't feel as bad if you do run out of time. And then if you run out, then you will have 1 minute turns from then on. And anytime, once again, if you run out of time for your 1 minute, then you're just going to be forced to end your turn and maneuver in place. So it is a little bit different than what we did throughout the rest of the event. Part of the reason is because we don't want to see a game loss on stream. That would be very sad. But also, we're a little bit limited by our technical capabilities. We don't necessarily have a timer that is going to allow us to, once the timer runs out, then reset to a minute, because we're using pretty standard chess timers that we found online. So we are working on getting a more permanent solution, I'll say, through our wonderful website, League. So anybody who's unfamiliar with League, that is a website created by Frank K in the Discord. So huge shout out to Frank for creating League. It's just an excellent resource for Unmatched in general, mainly focused on competitive play. But the ranked ladder runs through League, and it's got tons of fighter stats and everything. So it's an excellent resource. So we are very thankful to Frank for that. And he is working on getting a timer implemented in League that everybody will be able to access, and we can specifically program that timer to act the way we want it to. But as of now, when you're just using a standard chess timer and the time runs out, the timer resets itself essentially. It says the game is over and you can't go back. So during our games here that we're streaming, I will be manning the timer myself. So I will make sure to stop it before it actually hits 0, like when it gets to 1 second, and that we'll call that the end of the turn, and then I'll be able to flip the timer over to the opponent, which will constantly keep the timer going at that essentially 1 minute mark. So I think it's going to work out a little better, and I think it relieves a little bit of stress for the players. Although, again, running out of time and forcing the end of your turn definitely can lose you a game regardless. So they're still going to have to be on their toes as far as the time goes and pay attention. But hopefully they will have their assignments done soon. I believe they are setting that up. So we will have that in just a moment. But I know some interesting points that they had just brought up to... Oh, there we see the nice banners there brought down for the fighters there. So it looks like Jason did choose to assign T-Rex, but he foregone Little Red, and Chad ended up not playing the Ghost Rider as expected. So I don't think that's a surprise to us with the Ghost Rider being gone, but Mike, what do you think about the Little Red not being played on Jason's end, especially with Wukong being on the other side.
I think what you said was earlier makes a lot of sense here, which is he's probably not as familiar. I can't say that he's too familiar with T-Rex, but if he ended up putting her on advantage, maybe you're just going for the fact that press a fighter. I'm very interested to see how these line up. I think somebody might have gotten Arsenaled here, maybe. We're not too sure yet. But if there's a lot of potential to be Arsenaled right now, is all I'm saying with these matchups. I think what you would want to see as Jason is probably do Sinbad into Alice, and probably Wukong and Rex, and roll the dice on Beowulf Moon Knight. I think there's opportunity for both there. I think that's still Moon Knight favored, but I think time will tell what's going to end up here.
Yeah, with the Beowulf Moon Knight, that is an interesting one. But what about Sinbad Moon Knight? I mean, you had said that you think Moon Knight's maybe favored, but we did see Baked Goods, I believe, pull out a win with Sinbad against Moon Knight in his top 8 matchup. So I wouldn't write that one off.
I wouldn't either, and we all know how strong the MV Porter, the MVP that Porter. We all gave him trash a long time ago, and he's coming through more and more as games go on. We're finding out the Porter is better than we all expected. I'm very excited.
Yep. I think you're definitely right about the Porter. I mean, he seems on the surface to be kind of a useless sidekick. It's just a meat shield, as we like to call them. But he really does have a lot of utility, being able to gain that movement advantage just like Sinbad does, and he can still hit hard with momentous shifts and commanding impact. So, and he's a draw machine on top of that. So if you ever get down in the hand count and you need those cards, you can send in the Porter, and that's not your hero. So Porter goes in, he hits, tries to draw some cards, and if they want to counterattack Porter, you're like, well, okay, fine. It's just Porter.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, Porter, MV Porter. I like that. Better than we all thought. Now, I do agree with Chad not picking the Ghost Rider. I think it's too telegraphed and just not even super great into Jason's fighters rather than Sinbad, but if we see the Sinbad Wukong matchup, that is going to be very difficult for Jason there. And as good of a Sinbad player as he is, I still don't have much faith in Sinbad in that matchup. I think it's a hard counter. So that's going to be a little rough.
We'll find out what these. I'm excited.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Beowulf Alice matchup is very interesting as well, because again, they're two heavy hitters, and although Alice being big is not the same as Khonshu, where Khonshu doesn't take the damage from Grendel, Alice will take damage, but her values are still getting buffed up, so she's not taking full damage necessarily. She's still hitting really hard over Grendel's and not taking the full damage back. So it looks like they do have the assignments. So let's go ahead and take a look at the assignments and see what actually is going to pan out here. So on the left, as the leader, we see Jason and Chad on the right as followers. So we are going to see game 1, T-Rex versus Alice. So Anar, I mean, you called it out, right? Chad, he guessed that Jason was going to put the T-Rex on advantage, if at all, and he lined up the Alice. So good call on that one. I mean, do you think Alice has got a good shot then?
Yeah, for sure. I can see Alice win on this map, but it can go either way, actually.
Definitely. So interesting to see T-Rex pick this map, but we'll talk a little bit more about the maps in a minute. But looking at game 2, I mean, Mike, there you go, the Sinbad into Wukong. That's going to be rough for Jason, huh?
Somebody got Arsenaled here, folks. Somebody got Arsenaled.
Arsenaled indeed. Unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world, right? Because then we see game 3 going to be Beowulf into Moon Knight on the same T-Rex paddock map, nonetheless. So that is interesting to see. So Chad got the map choice on that one. So Jason picked T-Rex paddock in game 1, and Chad picked the T-Rex paddock in game 2. Very interesting. I know Chad is a big fan of that map in general, though, especially with a fighter like Moon Knight. So Wow, this is gonna be some interesting matchups. If I had to guess, I think it's gonna hinge on, like, the crucial game is gonna be game 1, because if Jason gets, I hesitant to say, but upset by Alice in game 1, I think it's almost game over, because Wukong into Sinbad is just gonna be brutal, especially on a map like Yukon. So it's gonna be interesting. But let's go ahead and take a closer look at the game 1 right there with the T-Rex and Alice. So we can see the T-Rex paddock map a little bit bigger there, and Jason got the map and position pick. Now, I know a big favorite map for T-Rex is oftentimes Hanging Gardens, and of course Raptor Paddock is the #1 pick, but often, almost always, that map is banned away from T-Rex because it's so good for Rex, because she avoids, or ignores rather, the one-way arrows on the Raptor Paddock. But with T-Rex Paddock being chosen over the Hanging Gardens, I don't know how I feel about that. I think T-Rex would like that extra damage, but maybe he's just concerned about Alice getting the extra damage back on T-Rex, and Big Alice already hits like a truck, so you don't want to give her any additional damage. So maybe that's why he was hesitant about Hanging Gardens and chose T-Rex Paddock, which is another tight map once you get to the center. So let's go ahead and we will bring up the decks and take a quick look at those to highlight the T-Rex and Alice and kind of what they're all about and what their key cards are. So Dylan, you want to go ahead and run us by the T-Rex?
Well, the T-Rex has some very specific cards that you need to watch out for, like Ripples in the Water. It forces a discard, so it could discard a key card of Alice's, such as the Mirror. He's also has access to Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth, which, if you have the right hand, you can attack up to a ridiculous amount of times, similar to that of Bruce Lee. Reckless Lunge, in my opinion, it's not a great attack, but it's a great boost value when used with something like either Thrash, which you can see down there, or when used with Dinos Ruled the Earth. 15,000 pounds of muscle is also a great card. It definitely defeats the defensive bonus that Small Alice does. T-Rex is just a powerhouse. You just have to respect her. Whether your strategy is to go to exhaustion or just crumble her not so great defenses, it all depends on the game state and everything. It's difficult to see. I think it's T-Rex favored, especially with the advantage, but it'll be interesting to see how it comes out.
Yeah, I would agree with that. T-Rex is just, like you said, quite the powerhouse, so especially on advantage. So let's go ahead and take a look at Alice, though, and see what kind of tools she is working with. So, Anar, you want to give us a rundown on Alice here?
Yeah, of course. So in this particular matchup against T-Rex, Alice is looking for, especially for her defense cards, and when she's looking for mostly is actually Looking Glass, which is ultimate card for defense. So actually, when she's a small, she gets a +1 bonus for this card. So Looking Glass is actually a 3-value defense, and after combat, it actually gives her some brilliant options for draw 2 cards, or recover 3 health, or warp anywhere on the board, which is really nice. All of those 3 options are very great against T-Rex. We can see mostly Alice uses recover 3 health and maybe warp anywhere on the board. But here we can see drawing 2 cards to just maintain the hand advantage with a T-Rex. And also Manxam Foe. Manxam Foe is actually a very nice card for a it's versatile, which can be used for defense or an attack. This card in the top card, called Blind Boost, allows Alice to make this card 9-value attack, or maybe 8-value defense, which is really nice. And also, we can have Snicker Snack as an attack on T-Rex, which can actually trigger since T-Rex had got no defenses, and she actually can discard something really nice from her hand. So
Yeah,
That's
Snicker
for
Snack
it.
quite powerful, right? That could be a key card if Alice can land that. Although the problem is that T-Rex, although she doesn't have many defenses, she does have some that she can boost, and so that could negate the Snicker Snack, and that could be a huge interaction. I think specifically we are going to look for in this matchup, because if Alice can land the Snicker Snack and win the combat and maybe take away Rex's only other defense in hand and then hit again with, you know, something like a Manxum foe for upwards of 9 damage, that could definitely be a big swing. But I think the players are all set up, so thank you guys for the rundown on the decks, and let's get into Vorpal board and let the action begin. So we are going to see T-Rex starting first. Of course, I don't think that is a surprise to anybody. And the thing about this map is that it is very tight once you get into the game. But at the starting position here, T-Rex is quite a distance away from Alice. So if Rex wants to go and attack turn 1, she's going to have to boost in to do so. Even a Ripples in the Water, one of those key cards we saw, lets her warp somewhere in the zone, and with her taking up 2 spaces, Jason can place her so that she is in that darker green zone. But that still will not allow T-Rex to reach Alice. So perhaps we will see a boost from Jason turn 1 to boost in and attack. Even if he can't reach Alice, I would expect T-Rex to go after Jabberwock pretty early, because Jabberwock also does not have many defenses. So we are just waiting on players that are going to do their keep or mulligan. So they have to draw their hands, and a mulligan in this game, also for anyone who's unfamiliar, we let them shuffle up and draw their opening hand of 5 cards, and if they do not like the cards that they drew, they can shuffle all 5 back into their deck and draw a new hand of 5. So that is an optional mulligan once per game, and it can definitely help you fix a terrible hand. So from Chad's side, you know, if he opens up maybe no defenses or suboptimal defenses, we would probably expect to see a mulligan. And I think from Jason's end, we are just looking for some offensive pressure, some attack cards.
I personally am most interested in what drove Jason to pick this map. I think I'd like to know the thought process behind it. See where this goes.
Yeah, this map is good after the first turn for T-Rex, but you really want the first turn advantage with the T-Rex, because you want to go in and attack as hard as you can. But I think you just got to spend a very valuable card to boost in, because you need that high boost value. It's interesting.
Yeah. In fact, I think the only card that you can use to reach Alice right away is the Reckless Lunge. And, you know, using that to boost, definitely not as valuable. Versus a place like Hanging Gardens where you can Ripples in immediately or use a much smaller, lesser effect boost card to get your attack off immediately.
Yeah, and you have the option of taking the +1 damage on there too.
Yeah, I think sitting in this position, I don't know, maybe John can give his insight as well, but I think Alice is liking what this is showing right now. I think if I was Alice, I'd be happy with this.
Yeah, I would agree. I think this map it definitely relieves at least that initial early game pressure that T-Rex usually puts on fighters. And as long as Alice can build up a healthy hand size, she should be fine going toe-to-toe with T-Rex, as Anar had discussed earlier with, you know, her small ability and her size changes, letting her get buffs on all of her combat interactions. So that's the only thing Alice has to really worry about, I think, in this matchup is the hand count, because with T-Rex's ability giving her free card draw at the end of every turn, that can definitely, you know, get out of hand, and Alice doesn't have the most draw power. She has some, but she's going to just have to keep a healthy hand size so that she's able to stand and fight rather than just have to run away, because that's how Rex gets you, right? She forces you on the back foot, and you have to just constantly maneuver away just to draw defenses. And if you're doing that, you're literally not accomplishing anything towards winning the game other than trying to stall out. But Rex has more than enough damage to defeat most fighters, you know, regardless of how many defenses they happen to draw. So,
Oh, for sure. And most of Rex's defenses are versatiles. So if you force the Rex to play versatiles on defense, that's just potential damage going down the drain.
yep, that's a fantastic point right there, Dylan. If you can actually fight back, then T-Rex kind of has to run away at some points, honestly. She can't literally just stand and fight if you can keep up with her hand advantage, because especially a fighter like Alice who can hit so hard so often, I mean, you're gonna have to be a little careful as T-Rex. It's not as free of a matchup as a lot of other ones.
Yeah, we see
Yeah,
Alice
but-
taking the small form.
Yeah,
Just like
I
Anar
think
pointed
that's
out.
the correct choice.
yeah. Anar, what do you think about Alice starting small here? I know that's not it's not a very common play. Usually Alice likes to start big.
Yeah, for sure, Alice likes to start big, but in this matchup, there is a chance that T-Rex can actually move with an attack. Actually, on this map, there are, I guess, 8 spaces between first and second position, but also it allows T-Rex to boost with Rexus Lunge and have the closer than she appears to reach Alice turn 1. That's why we don't want to take risks and start small.
Okay, interesting. I wonder what Chad's hand looks like. I mean, I do agree with starting small, because if Jason just double maneuvers turn 1, he might be able to set up a favorable position on the map, but he's then overdrawing, right? And he's losing a whole turn where he could be attacking, and you're going to gas out eventually as T-Rex. It's just a matter of when, how quickly. So I think you want to attack turn 1, and with that, you know, pressure on Rex to attack, definitely Alice being small is going to help. And so I think that would indicate to us that Chad, he also kept his hand, so he probably is comfortable with the defenses that he has. I would expect something in hand like a Mad as a Hatter, for example, which is a versatile 3 value, which would bump to a 4 in this case being small, and then gives movement and a size change. So if Rex wants to come up and boost in an attack, then Alice can move up adjacent and then attack big. And it is a little bit funny watching T-Rex on Vorpal, because we have the 2 different figures with different angles so that we can line it up properly. You can flip and rotate them as needed, but they you can't do like a fine rotation. It's only specific 90-degree angle rotations, so a little bit funny to see on Vorpal, but it works out well enough. All right, looks like they are about to begin. Jason has placed Rex as expected in that spot, and Chad has put down the Jabberwock. And we are good to go. So let's see if I believe Jason kept his hand as well. Is that right?
This is correct, yes.
Okay, so he must have, you would think, a Reckless Lunge to boost with, right? Or at least a 3-value boost and a Closer Than She Appears.
I think we're about to find out right now with this boost card. I think he's about to see what he's...
Oh, for sure.
He's scheming something. There it
Yeah,
is.
Reckless Lunge,
So
there
he
it
does
is.
There
have
it is.
the Reckless Lunge, the 4-value boost card. It's going to let him move up right away. So it looks like Rex 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is going to be in both of these spaces here. Chad's going to fix the the rotation of the T-Rex there to more clearly indicate which 2 spaces she is in. Wow, we are going to see a turn.
Looking Glass.
First action Looking Glass.
I don't think this is a bad idea at all.
No, I love this play, and it
um,
paid off big for Chad right here.
It absolutely did. You get full health, and then I wouldn't doubt if you just warp across the board or take the cards. I mean, there's so much opportunity right now.
Yeah, so the muscle ignores the Looking Glass value for 3 damage, but then Looking Glass will get to immediately heal that 3 back, and I imagine Chad is going to take the cards, which he does. And so look at that. Alice already off the bat has not lost any health, essentially, and has the hand advantage over T-Rex, which is that's a big deal.
Yeah, it was a brilliant call by Chad.
I think we know why he kept, folks.
Oh, yeah. What a play that was. You'll love to see it. I mean, it was a little bit of a risk, right? Because if Jason hit with something like maybe a momentous shift, then you're not getting full value out of your healing from the Looking Glass. But I really don't think you care too much. I think, Chad, more than anything, the Looking Glass represents no damage taken and the card, you know, the hand advantage, which is the most important part. Now, the only punish would have been if we would have seen a Reckless Lunge attack into the Looking Glass because, as you know, Mike, what do you always say on your podcast?
Bro, the defender resolves first.
The defender resolves first, exactly. So the 3-value lunge would hit into the 3-value Looking Glass, and no damage is dealt in combat. Alice's defender card resolves first, which would miss out on the healing altogether, and then the Reckless Lunge would have dealt the 3 damage afterwards, and that would have been a brutal punish for Chad. But I think Lunge specifically was the only card that was a punish, and because he saw one used to boost, it's not likely. So I think that was a great call from Chad. We are going to see the Eat Me move adjacent and change size.
Going on the offensive.
This is it, because T-Rex can't feint. So this is your time. You have your hand advantage, or what probably is going to be your best hand advantage. I would think, you know, maybe Momentous, maybe Snicker Snack, heavy hit card, maybe the Mushroom to get away. There's so much that Alice can do right here. I think that Looking Glass really tipped this game way in her favor more than she should be.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. That was just such a perfect opener from Chad. Like
Definitely
I said,
swung it in the advantage.
yeah, for sure. And I mean, it was a bit of a risk with it being potentially a lunge, but it was a calculated risk because the lunge was not likely with one being used to boost. Oh, so here we do see the Snicker Snack.
Okay.
So Alice being big is going to increase her Snicker Snack by 2 value up to a 5 for 2 damage over the Roar. Roar means fighters cannot move, but Snicker Snack has no movement anyways.
Oh my,
Oh, what a
those are
hand.
great cards. No matter what he picks, it's either going to be Ripples or Dinos, but
I think it has to be Ripples here.
it's going to be
nope, it has to be
Commanding?
Commanding Impact, obviously.
Wow, he got rid of the impact. I think he really recognizes the importance of his hand advantage. And he definitely wants to keep that up. And Commanding Impact is a big attack that provides draw. And Dinos can provide draw as well, but you also have to win the combat. And to win, you probably have to boost, which is spending more cards in hand. So I think that's why we saw the Commanding Impact discarded rather than the Dinos.
So we're talking about Rex retreating eventually. I think maybe the Rex might have to retreat because got no real great cards to attack with and no defenses either.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with Dylan.
He's going for an attack?
And we know that it's Dinos, and Chad having perfect information makes this quite a risky attack, I think, by Jason. So we're going to see a skirmish. And we know Jason's card is Dinos. So he can boost it with the other dinos to a 5 and keep Alice from getting the movement. But I don't know. He might just choose not to boost, let the skirmish happen, and then back off one space at least, like you had mentioned, Dylan, and start getting that hand advantage going.
Looks like Alice opted to take the retreat.
Yep. So Jason does not boost the dinos. You know, I don't hate that play actually by Jason because he is putting more pressure on Alice, and when Alice is big, that's when you want to attack her because she doesn't have the defense buff, and she's either using one of her good offensive cards like the skirmish or a Manxome Foe or Momentous Shift, and otherwise, if she's not using one of those, she is using likely a size change card. So you either force her out of big into small form, which means she's not as threatening to you, or you force her to throw away something like the skirmish, like we saw, which is a very valuable card.
Yeah, and it's a potential 6 attack that he basically threw in the bin.
That is true. So I don't hit that play by Jason, and he's still got the hand advantage. Still forces Alice to back off here, and maybe he can kind of reposture and go in again, maybe next turn or the one after. Because Jason could take another double maneuver turn just to get back up to 7 cards and really put the pressure on.
Another thing to consider is that the Jabberwock still exists and has 8 hit points. And has very valuable cards in this matchup because you can't feint them. They're going to go through.
Yep.
Yeah.
T-Rex also has no movement effects on defense to avoid the auto damage from the Jabberwock jaws.
So T-Rex starts in a brilliant space on this map where she can ripple everywhere. So, and we know that she has ripples in hand. So can we see ripples turn action 1 here to attack Alice?
Yeah.
So guys, what do you think?
I think we will, Anar. I think I would agree. He's gonna either have to give up the discard though, or give up attacking Alice and hit Jabberwock instead. That's the problem.
Yeah, looks like she's winning for a Jabberwock.
So we have to do a random discard here because T-Rex is adjacent to the Jabberwock. Card number 3. What's behind card number 3? We see, ooh, a Momentous Shift. I think that's a
Big
pretty
attack,
this is
decent
decent.
good
defense.
hit. We're going to see an attack on Jabberwock. Ooh, Commanding Impact deals big damage over a regroup here.
That's still okay. I think that's in Chad's favor because that's another 5 attack that won't be coming Alice's way.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
he
good
gets to
point there.
maintain hand advantage.
Yep. I think Chad is in a comfortable spot right now.
And you know, I'm not trying to say the pressure will get to Jason, but I think he really knows he has to win this match. I think he knows that.
Yep. Yeah, with the Sinbad Wukong coming up, it's not great. This is definitely a crucial game here. He wants to push this to the game 3, and then I think he has a good shot. So we're going to see Alice come in again with the hand advantage and making an attack as Big Alice, it looks like. No, reconsidering.
I still probably think you do the attack right now, and then it's a movement effect attack. That's why Jabberwock's positioned so far. But I am the king of wrong.
No,
calls
Mike,
right
Mike,
now.
I
I
think
am
that's a
the
great
king of
call.
incorrect
I think you're right.
You think that's a great call?
I think you're right.
Dude.
Yeah, it's definitely has to be Mushroom or Mad as a Hatter. It has to be one of those.
Right.
Or I'm late, I'm late.
It's true.
Yes.
A lot of great movement cards.
Even a 4 value isn't. I believe I'm late is the 2 value, so that would be actually a 4. I think you're okay with that even, and then you get to move 5 spaces. I mean,
Yep.
Yeah.
Though there's always the threat of the terrifying roar, even though we've seen one used and there's 2 in the deck, but you never know. There could be that other one coming out to keep Alice in place. Could be a little bit dangerous for Chad, but you gotta, you know, take those risks. You can't be afraid of the card the whole game and just not attack.
oh, undefended.
Hmm.
So I think, honestly, this was a telegraphed mushroom specifically because of the 3 spaces of movement and the way he positioned Jabberwock. Because if he had one more space, he could have moved Jabberwock back into this solo gray spot. And so he could have done that, and if it was I'm late, he would have been able to move Alice way back into the green and still avoid T-Rex being able to attack. So I think that was actually a telegraphed mushroom, because if it was Hatter, moving Jabberwock there wouldn't even get Alice away because T-Rex can just move where she is now, and she could have attacked that blank gray spot. So I think if Jason thought about that, he could have deduced that the mushroom was indeed the attack being thrown out there.
Yeah. We're gonna see him attack the Jabberwock, try and kill him, I would imagine, or defeat him. That would probably be a good idea because then that's 4 cards that just can't be used.
Yep. Yeah, we haven't seen any Jabberwock cards yet, so also having that extra body to go and, I want to say, bully T-Rex, you know, send out the Jabberwock to do the dirty work and keep Alice safe across the map is very effective. So I think getting rid of the Jabberwock here is crucial, though Jason is going to have to boost it, unfortunately for him, because he's just 1 damage off. Because he's got the 2 in combat and then the 1 auto damage to the Jabberwock, but he's going to have to
He's
throw away a
definitely gonna
card.
boost.
Yeah.
Another threat.
Another Thrash, another defense gone.
Defense is gone.
Yikes.
That's rough.
But you're gonna waste another card on Jabberwock anyway, so that's probably his best option, is what I'm thinking. You know, if you left him alive, he's still there, but we gotta get him out of here, and he's gone. I think Alice can just play a safe game though with Rex's auto damage and just complete exhaustion. I think Alice is still in the driver's seat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
The
for
health
sure.
pool difference is definitely getting closer and closer, and we still have another Looking Glass that's unplayed.
That is true.
So
And
effectively 16 health for Alice versus T-Rex's 18.
yep. And also,
Yeah,
you got to keep in mind Brex's self-damage, right? So it's not even
Mhm.
quite the 18 that it appears to be.
Yeah, it's
Well, we can't see the discard pile of the T-Rex. I believe it's 2 dinos that have been played and 2 thrashes. Those are the big ones.
Yes, you're right.
2 dinos, 1 reckless lunge, and then the 1 pounds of muscle. So
and
that
one
is a lot of
commanded impact.
self-damage out. That is a lot of self-damage already dissipated, but
Hey John, with Alice having 6 cards and being kind of getting on the low side of hit points, what do you think the T-Rex's win condition is at this point?
I think T-Rex's win condition is probably the same as it usually is, and you just got to go all out, right? You got to just boost in there, and you got to hit, and you just got to keep on hitting. Because if you try to, you know, play a slower game, you're going to lose it because of your ability drawing you extra cards. So I think it's tough. It's a very tough spot right now for T-Rex because to go attack Alice here, you need to boost in, and then you're attacking into small Alice who can defend well and probably with movement and size change like we talked about, turn big and then hit you really hard on the counterattack. So it's rough. Honestly, this turn specifically, I would like to see Jason take center stage and just double maneuver here. get a good central position and get up to that 7-card hand.
It is not insane. Sorry, I need to make sure. Yeah, it's clearly not. Make sure I don't put in other situations the card before.
I think this is another one of those moments where the map is coming into effect more than I think Jason wanted it to in this matchup.
Yep, I would
And
agree.
Bruce put the other regular plunge.
Okay.
He boosts in and he does go for the attack. All right.
Expect another commanding if he has one. Ooh.
That is a 4 value. And then that's...
4 value Hatter, like I kind of expected to move and change size, but dinos can gain an action here.
I don't know if I personally would want that because he's going to move out of attack range either way. And then you're just kind of... Unless you're setting yourself up for next turn.
I feel like if he doesn't boost, then they're gonna move in with Big Alice and just attack because he's got 3 cards in hand. That's probably not going to be very many defensive options.
Yep.
This is one of those you don't know, you know, no matter what you do, you're probably in a bad spot with that card being played.
Yep, I agree. And like you said, Dylan, I think we're going to see that right here. I think Chad's going to move in adjacent with Hatter, and just Jason's got 3 cards in hand. Just going to smack him.
I actually love Alice play aggressively against T-Rex. It's a very interesting interaction between these two fighters. It's not looking like any other T-Rex matchups where your opponent just runs. It looks like cat and mouse and so on. Actually, Alice can hit hard, which is really nice.
Yep. A lot of fighters can't stand toe to toe.
Looks like we do have an attack coming in. And it's a 6
Yeah.
value.
It's a huge.
8.
Ooh,
That
this
is-
is... And back to small, and she gets to maneuver away. This is looking very bad.
This is very bleak for our friend Jason right now.
I still want to believe Team Jason, but I've got to say it looks really uphill from here. I hope he brought his climbing shoes today.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mike, you said it the best, right? I think he got arsenaled.
He got arsenaled. I think he just plain got arsenaled. And then, you know, the next game is looking very bleak as well. We have, you know, there's always opportunity for some craziness, but I think right now Jason is not in a great spot, and he needs to dramatically change that somehow. Perhaps with a great ripple play right now into pulling the only defense in Alice's hand and hitting for really hard. But
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely still hope for T-Rex, but Alice has just honestly had everything going perfect for her so far. So we do see closer than she appears, letting T-Rex move.
But we came to the spot when T-Rex is actually hesitates to play reckless launch for an attack, or maybe when dinosaurs rule the earth to have those auto damage, self damage. I mean.
Right. Oh, so that's why we see a momentous shift coming out here. I like that by Jason. I think he's going to want to use all his shifts if he can on offense, though those are, you know, some of Rex's few defenses, so might be tough, especially since we've seen 2 of the Thrash already gone.
Even looking at the deck sizes here, the T-Rex has 14 left, Alice has 16. While I don't expect the transition to exhaustion play, if it ends up being that, Alice is in the favor of that.
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree with Dylan. And also, I think maybe T-Rex at this point maybe not care about her defenses and go just full aggro.
Yeah, I think full aggro is just what T-Rex has to do, and you just gotta hope that, you know, that it's enough.
Yeah, there's options. They're
Okay.
few and far in between, but there are options.
First action, I'll play this.
All right, that's a great card for Chad to get his hand loaded up and turn back to small. I think this is one of the few matchups that you actually want to be small Alice almost more often than not.
Very true, but we did see that Chad got some excellent value out of Big Alice, so it's not to be undervalued by any means.
Oh, for sure. You can never undervalue Big Alice. I mean, Big Alice honestly is one of the scariest things in this game. Being able to hit for 7s and even 9, upwards of 9s, like pretty consistently is just insane.
I think one of the underestimated ones of this match is definitely the Looking Glass play, but then the Snicker Snack, so you get to see that T-Rex had really no options. It's just great all around.
Yep. Getting that full hand knowledge in this game is so impactful. Because not only did it give Chad perfect knowledge on what that attack was Jason was throwing out that turn, being the dinos, but it also just gives information on what Jason's hand looks like, and Chad saw that there was no defenses, so you can kind of tailor your next turn or two, you know, with that information in mind, maybe being more aggressive, knowing that Jason wouldn't likely be able to block. So Alice just choosing to stay there where she was. Looks like 4 spaces away either direction, so Jason is going to have to boost his movement here to reach her. Unless he has another closer than she appears, that would be a great time for one of those. Could see the ripple as well, actually. Could ripple adjacent. Try to hit that crucial defense, Mike, like you had talked about. I think that might be Jason's only hope. Otherwise, if you give Alice a movement effect, I mean, she can swing all the way to the other side of the board.
And we do see the roar for a boost, so movement effects, even more chance to run away.
It makes me question what else Jason has in his hand. If Roar was the card he used to boost.
Because he didn't have to move far, and he boosted with a 3.
If this is dinos, that could be big. Ooh, no dinos.
Oh, no
So
dinos.
Shift on shift
I was,
action.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say that as well. Like this is
Just 1 damage there, though. Not the best for a momentous shift.
That's good.
I think we're running very low on T-Rex defenses.
Very
I think
much
there's
so.
big opportunity for Alice to just turn the tables and just start hitting undefended attacks. I don't know.
Yeah.
That might not be Chad's playstyle right now, because what is working, or what he is doing, is obviously working very well for him. But there is going to be a point where Chad just might say, hey, you've boosted a lot, you've used your momentous, it's time for me to do my thing.
I think the only defense that the T-Rex has is the you're making her angry.
I think one more roar, or one more momentous. I forget if there's 2 roars or 3.
I'm looking at the stats. There are only 2 roars.
Yeah, that's rough sounding from my perspective.
Gotta remember that T-Rex only has 10 cards total for defenses.
Yep.
We are going to see a ripple, though.
Yep. And roll a d4.
Ripple's going to get T-Rex adjacent. because
And
she
only
does
three.
occupy
What if
both
there's only one
spaces.
defense in hand? What if there's only one defense?
This could
And
be the
let's hope it's
swing.
something like Looking Glass.
Oh, that's not what Jason wants to
Oh, that's
see.
not what you want to see.
Alright.
No, that's
Mhm.
not what you
Unfortunate.
That is unfortunate. We're going to see the first feint come out from Chad against Impact. Oh, it is the Impact.
Oh.
Okay.
Really good.
That is very good for Jason, though Alice is small, so it was a 3-value feint, which is much better than it otherwise could have been. And then it will go to Chad's turn.
Chad does start adjacent. But I do foresee maneuvers inbound, unless you might have the scheme to draw. Oh, maneuver inbound. The incorrect opinion
Maneuver
keeps
again.
dwindling as time goes on.
Go. So you're there.
You and Alice is small with only 2 cards.
Guess I'm
Yeah,
playing
double maneuver is
there.
probably what I expected.
You know, this is Jason's one chance. Just if you have the other ripples, I think you got to do it. 4 cards in hand, this is it. I mean, you're coming down to it. Your options are dwindling, but we don't know what's in his hand.
I think also, though, Mike, you might need to save that ripple for a later turn, and it may be better to maybe use a closer than
Maneuver
she
first.
appears here.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, but we are going to see
And
the
there's
ripple.
Nice.
He's probably got the same thought as you.
Alright, D4 again.
Now, do you try to block off that area, or do you try to force him, like, place your tail upward? Well, he just places it there.
Still happy.
Oh my gosh.
Another.
Oh my
The
goodness,
other
he
scheme.
just can't pull a defense.
Those are literally the only schemes in Alice's deck. That's so unfortunate for Jason. Not great. Although it is starting
really
to
like
look a
the
little
move.
scary for Chad. I think he really needs that second Looking Glass about now, or within the next turn or two.
Maybe he's just waiting for maximum value from Looking Glass.
This immediate next.
Could be. I mean, he is small now, so that's about as, you know, the most value you're going to get. Thrash and Feint.
All right.
Another defense.
I think you're probably okay with that, that Thrash being feinted there, because I don't know that Jason would even want to boost
I
with
could
so little
use
cards
that
in
now.
hand.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also, since all the ripples are gone, could we see 61 million years of gut instinct used to bring the those back?
I think we definitely could, Anar. I think that would be a good play by Jason. Although it is somewhat of a slow play, because Jason needs to get his damage, and so the more he can let Alice run away and draw defenses potentially, the worse off he's going to be. So I don't expect we'll see it quite yet, but maybe later on in the game.
Yeah, I agree with you.
A surprising turn of events. Their deck sizes are now practically equal.
Wow. That is actually very surprising.
The gut instinct is gonna, I think, come into play more than we think it will.
Oh, yeah. This is not over for Jason. As long as he can keep Chad on the run, he's in a decent spot. And he is going to...
Okay, pull back for rip.
There you go. Anar,
Yeah,
you were
for-
right. He did it.
So your Rex is here. Yeah, I can see your ripple. Not that it matters.
I think at some point, Chad needs to flip the switch, so to speak, and go big and finish off T-Rex. I don't know if he keeps running, if he actually ends up winning this game now that the deck counts are actually in T-Rex's favor right at the moment. It's quite surprising.
And also, we would keep saying it. He used a lot of his defense to either attack with or boost with. So I think Chad will eventually say, you know what, now's the time. But he's
Yep.
setting something up.
I
He's setting
agree.
something up.
I think he's just waiting, and then he's going to go for the finishing blow when it gets down to it. But even more defenses he's using to boost with here.
This game's getting more spicier than I thought it was going to be. Considered it
Yeah.
started.
Definitely. We got a game on our hands, that's for sure. So the reason he boosted there is to avoid the ripple potential discard, because now Jason could ripple and attack, but he won't get the discard. So that's what Chad is really worried about. If he can limit Jason to 1 attack per turn, then he's in a pretty good spot. And especially being where he's at, if T-Rex has to maneuver up to approach and attack, then Alice is going to have the opportunity to run once again to the other side of the map. I'm sure T-Rex considering what to boost with here. Gonna be closer than she appears. So he's boosting with that rather than using it for the effect, because he's trying to avoid drawing excess cards from his deck.
Hmm.
I'll throw this.
Is this going to be the swing that we talked about, Mike, with Hatter moving in, going big, double attack,
You're
big
going
Ellis?
big. Why not? I mean, this is. I think this is where Jason has to kind of see that, and I think if you have the boost value to get the action, even though you won't be able to attack again, I just.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know, man.
that's an expensive
You're
boost
in that
though
weird
too.
spot again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
you're in that weird spot again where Alice can't lose whatever you end up doing.
Yeah, this specific
Yeah, maybe.
interaction is very interesting. Go ahead, Anar. I didn't
Yeah,
mean to
maybe we
interrupt.
can see. Yeah, I want to say that maybe we can see double attack from Alice next turn, and maybe a hidden second with a Max Info to finish off the T-Rex. Because we know T-Rex is very poor on defenses. If I recall correctly, she has only 10 defense cards in her deck.
Yeah, I believe you're right. And we've seen most of them come out already, being thrashes.
Yeah. And maybe she's stuck with one value defenses called You're Making Her Angry.
Right.
Yeah. And when T-Rex uses those defenses and boosts with other cards in her hand, we're actually in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, this is just really, this is a crucial decision right here for Jason. As much as he wants to boost over and avoid Alice double attacking big, which I think is a death sentence, I mean, he's going to lose another card in his hand. He's going to have to draw more cards out of his deck, and Alice is going to move away, so then he's going to have to just maneuver again himself. So it's a lot of cards gone.
Take it through from that, right? Or let's do it.
Is that the
Just
last
ultimate.
restless launch here?
I believe that is
That is
the
the
last
one. Is three.
Yeah, so I
lunge,
moved one
yes.
space here and I
Oh,
switched
yeah.
So now I have
And I believe there's no more closer than she appears, so he was
Yeah.
forced to maneuver here, or do the ripples. Ripples being putting yourself up for a double attack, and should Chad have the double maximum foe on big, I mean, you're setting yourself up for some pretty big failure, I think.
Yeah, it's a rough spot regardless for Jason, but I think you need to maneuver back. I don't know that you can afford taking a double big Alice attack. I think you're just dead at that point. And as much as a maneuver hurts, because that's a maneuver and then a card draw at the end of your turn, you'll be at 2 cards left in deck only. I mean, it's scary, but I don't know if he has really any other option. So this goes away.
See the gut instinct coming back.
I
What do you
do
think we pull?
I think this was actually the best play Jason could have made using 65 million years, because he got back a reckless lunge. And so essentially he got to kind of play a pass there, not having to draw further into deck, and he's still out of range of a double Big Alice attack. So even a single Big Alice attack will not finish him off, even if it's a 9-value Manxum foe, which is the biggest Alice can do. And then I think that Reckless Lunge is a Hail Mary, if I had to guess, in order to finish off Alice with undefended, 3-value attack, and then the 3 auto damage after combat to be the finisher.
It's always possible that Looking Glass is on the bottom of the deck, so while it's unlikely, it's still possible.
Yep. And anytime you ask yourself, well, what are the chances that it's at the bottom of the deck? Well, you just jinxed it, and it's 100%, as we all know.
Or it's the opposite of what you're wanting, right? Like, it's always the opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
That's happened to me countless times.
You never ask that question. It's a curse.
Never asked.
So Chad took a maneuver. He's deciding what to do. He knows that he can't go in and attack without defenses because of that lunge. And I think the amount of time he's contemplating right here indicates to me that he doesn't have the Looking Glass. Because if he had the Looking Glass, I think there's no doubt that he would just go in and attack with no fear.
Yeah, there's a good point.
Did he maneuver? Did you say that? Like, he drew the card?
Yep,
I
he drew the card. He's thinking about movement. He might just maneuver again in place. He might not even be able to really get away.
Gotta be careful, the timer is already down to 2 minutes.
That is true. Okay, so he is going to move.
Maybe contemplating boosting away so that Ripples isn't...
Yeah. I'm sure we're going to see another
Yeah.
maneuver and a boost.
Yeah, boost with Jabberwock cards maybe.
Yeah, if there's any left, I believe. Maybe there's 1 Jaws left. Oh, he just
There
top
it is.
decked it.
He top decked it. I was going to say that too. I was like...
Lucky top deck, that's for sure. So Ripple can get into attack range, but it won't get the discard. And I think Jason's really saving that Ripple to try and get a discard into a undefended lunge for his win condition.
Fortunately, Chad's not going to make that easy, though.
Not at all. He's going to watch his positioning very carefully, but that's where the timer comes into play. You can't always have all the time in the world to optimize your positioning. So you better be thinking ahead about that right now as we speak, as Jason is thinking about his turn. Chad needs to be thinking
Jason's
ahead.
probably debating. I don't know. I think you're right. The Reckless is the Hail Mary, but I don't know if he... I hope he's not thinking that I need to boost with it to attack this turn, but running low on deck.
Right. Well, he needs a boost value of 2 in order to reach Alice this turn.
There are plenty.
Yeah, the problem is he needs, as much damage output as he can get, and the best card to boost with is the blue card, which is only, unfortunately, a 1 boost value, which won't get him there. So he's going to boost with Muscle. Wow, that's a big chunk of damage potentially just gone there. I'm very
Maybe
surprised.
he's looking at self-damage as not an option anymore. I'm not too sure, but he knew he needed to get close. He knew he wanted to attack. He's got some game plan going. Both are running low on deck.
Yeah, this is
I guess Looking Glass. Feel like Looking Glass would have been thrown out immediately if he had it. Am I wrong?
I think so. Chad's just mathing out what Jason has left here so he can make the best call, but yeah, I do. Looking Glass would just be an instant. You'd throw it out, you would warp adjacent to T-Rex so you can get a double big attack, and you'd do your healing, and you'd just close the game out right there. So he obviously does not have the Looking Glass. And
No,
this
he
is,
doesn't.
yeah, this is the tough part, is that I'm late is going to force him into small, and he has no size change schemes left, so the only way to change back to big now is through combat. And to approach T-Rex at this point is also probably a death sentence, because now you're at 2. And so now there is a momentous shift that, regardless of Alice being small, can kill Alice over the top of a Looking Glass. But again,
Big
we
play
see
by
this.
Jason.
Yeah, big play. We're going to see Jason, though, having to take center stage, and he's going to have to take the, going to go for the kill next turn. I think is his only hope. This game will be
What
over after
attacks
one
does
turn.
Rex have left? Just the Momentous? Am I incorrect in that?
Alice going to move over
'Cause I
there and
believe
change
his-
size.
Got 2 blues, right? And then he has all the dinos gone. I think he's only has Momentous as his
shift.
last attack. Yeah, the
Ripple,
2
shift,
Momentous
2 blues.
and another moment. Or am I wrong in the 2 moment? Oh, they're down there on the bottom. I didn't.
He's got a closer left. Right?
Yeah, closer Mementos and 2 blues.
Yup.
And that's
the
all, I
shift.
think.
Oh man. Does
Yeah.
Chad have the feint? Because that's pretty much game over if he has the feint. Or am I wrong?
I believe Chad has 1 feint left.
Chad does have the feint and the Looking Glass.
Yeah, ugh. And the skirmish. I still think Chad.
Your turn.
All right, so
It's possible. Alice has 3 cards in deck, 3 in hand. 50-50 chance that he has the feint.
I believe we saw a double. Did we see a double maneuver just now for Alice? And
No, that was the resolution of the I'm late.
Oh, that
and
was
now
the
Jason
resolution of
has
the I'm
1
late.
extra action because of the dinos, which is rough because if he wants to maneuver, he's he has to maneuver, I think.
Gonna-
But then he's taking fatigue damage.
Yeah.
I think he's setting up a ripple turn here. And I think his hope is that, can he ripple anywhere on this space? It looks like it. So he's going to
Yeah, that's
ripple,
true.
hope to hit the feint, and he's going to go for the game with the shift. It's all going to come down to that.
But I think skirmish still blocks it completely.
Is there a skirmish as well?
I believe there's 1 skirmish.
Oof.
I believe there's Looking Glass, skirmish, feint, and then 3. Yeah, there's 1.
You're
skirmish.
right.
Yeah, I think this game is.
Well, there's also
unfortunately
Manxome
over in
Foes.
retrospect. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, and the 2
Yeah.
Maxim foes. I just can't see a world where Rex wins this unless somehow Chad exhausts himself.
Chad may exhaust himself. He has no passes. If he maneuvers again down to 1 card, I mean, Jason is going to have to... Well, yeah, Jason's going to have to, I believe... go for the ripple and hope he hits a good discard. He's going to have to hit either... He doesn't need to hit Manxome Foe. He needs to hit the shift or the skirmish, which we know guaranteed Chad has 1 of the 2 in his hand because he only has 1 card left in deck. So if he hits, if a skirmish or a feint is that last card in Chad's deck, and if Jason hits a feint or a skirmish, the other one, out of Chad's hand, he'll have confirmed lethal, I believe.
I guess we could see here ripples not adjacent to Alice. Maybe Jason can calculate and set up ripples in the space, which will force Alice to double maneuver.
That's
With Jason
true.
having no decks or cards in deck, we should be able to see his hand because I can't see his discard, but I don't know exactly what he has. I think the 2 blues we said previously.
The clock's
Does
gonna
Alice
come into
have
play
only
right
1
now.
card
It's
in
gonna
her
be
deck?
A rash decision. Yeah, is there any space Alice can't reach? Because Looking Glass gets him the 4 movement, and then the biggest defense would be Alice is small, so that actually might be the play, because then the 1 value can turn into either a 3 or 4 value, and she's small. I think that actually is
I'm
the
gonna
play.
see the ripple. He's got to make a play.
Does he go away? Does he go away with it?
D6.
I'm wondering if you don't jump next to them and do kind of what you say, force him to maneuver in, use the
Yeah.
blue on defense, and then momentous attack after.
But I'm actually not 100% sure about the boost values on those cards. So Looking Glass is a 3 or 4? 4, yeah? 4 boost.
4 boost
It is a
on
4
Looking
boost.
Glass.
He will be
Yep.
able to get close, but you're able to boost your defense with the blue card, moving it to a 3.
Left, right?
Yes.
He looks like he's just going for the RNGesus play.
Yeah.
I'll reroll.
Reroll on a 6.
I know.
The suspense. This is it. 5.
All right.
Oh, he hits the feint.
Oh, is it? If he doesn't have the skirmish, this is it. Am I wrong?
Well, the Manxum, though, the problem is Manxum
Oh, the
is a
Manxum,
4 value.
Yeah.
So that's the problem here. He's going to play the closer than she appears. Wow, this is it. I like the
Oh,
closer. I like the
yeah,
closer
this is-
play.
There's the skirmish.
Oh,
though.
he had the skirmish. That's
There's
the game.
skirmish. That's the game.
If he
Yeah.
didn't have
he
the
had
skirmish.
to make a decision. Yep.
Yeah, if the skirmish was the bottom card in deck, the Manxum foe would have gotten rid of the last card and not given any movement, and then Chad would have, he would have had to maneuver and die in fatigue. Wow!
Ooh.
Oh my gosh!
Maximum
Bottom
9.
deck.
9 damage.
The Looking Glass was
Yeah,
the bottom
that-
card.
oh.
7 damage Manxum.
What a game.
Wow. Wow, that
Ignore
was very
value card
close.
would have been
Well,
amazing.
Yeah.
right
let's
now.
listen in on the players and see what they have to say here.
Hit skirmish, and if I don't hit skirmish, back up 1, so that then you would die if you didn't have skirmish. So
Exactly.
like skirmish had to be in hand and a miss on the ripple.
Yeah, that was that was what I assumed was your best play, was ripple into closer. Yeah, wild. Yeah, I think there was that one turn where I think I was here. I was running away from your ripples because I just can't keep up with the ripple discards. Like because Alice smacks so big. So if I can get a couple of turns in where I'm smacking big and I'm comfortable with card counts and such, I'm totally fine. So there's one turn where I ran here, and then I wouldn't be able to get out with a double maneuver. But if I had just done 1, 2, 3, 4, I would have been fine. And I had to boost with one of these to do that, and maybe I should have. Not that it would have mattered because I couldn't have thrown it here against the shift, so maybe it didn't matter. But
That was really well played.
yeah, thanks.
Wow, what an ending. After that first opening play by Chad defending with the Looking Glass, I think he was in full control for most of the game, but looking at that ending, I mean, it literally just came down to, you know, some RNG with the Ripples discard and whether or not the skirmish was remaining, because even if you know, if he played the Manxum foe, he got rid of his last card in deck, and then he'd have to maneuver up to T-Rex and die in fatigue. So I think very, very well played on both sides. I mean, Mike, what did you think about that end game there?
I didn't expect it to be as close as it was. I'm just being as honest as I can be. I think Alice was in a complete control, and Jason he knows he can do some crazy things, and he turned it around. I think he's gonna be looking to do the same thing in the next Sinbad Wukong game. You know, get past this, try to figure out how to win that game. But Alice was in such a control. It surprised the heck out of me that Rex got in
Yeah,
and made it so close.
I agree. I think that was just masterfully played by Jason. And uh, so Dylan, when you played Jason in pools, did T-Rex come into play at all in your match?
It did not. No. I can't remember exactly what we played, but it was my Luke Cage into his. Actually, I have it right here. It was my Sun Wukong versus his Bigfoot, and he just completely stomped me. And then it was my Luke Cage into his Yananga, and yeah, that was very close. So he has the underdog advantage or underdog chance of going into the next match. So we wouldn't count him out entirely, but it's gonna be rough.
Yeah. Now you mentioned he beat your Wukong with his Bigfoot. I mean, that's pretty hard to do, honestly, even with Bigfoot. So, I mean, Anar, do you think there's a chance that Jason can get that upset with Sinbad into Wukong, or do you think he's kind of doomed at this point?
I think this matchup actually goes to Yukon because we know Yukon has 3P, patience, persistence, and Yukon Deathloop. So at this, yeah.
Yeah.
So from this point, it's actually very hard for Sinbad to beat Wukong. We actually could see in ladder Sinbad beating Wukong, but in this case, in Yukon, it's extremely hard to do, and I think there is tiny chance for Sinbad for I don't know.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have to see. Let's take a closer look at that next matchup that we have coming up here. So again, it's the Sinbad versus the Wukong, and there is Yukon, the infamous Yukon. And the reason that map is so despised by many players is because of the loop on the left side of the map. So the red and purple loop there. It's just really tough. There's so many spaces to make it around the other side. So if you have your hero and you body block with your sidekicks, which Wukong is famous for with his clones, then you force the opponent to either fight through the clones or you force them to go all the way around to the other side. So that player 1 and player 2 space that are highlighted, those are the starting spaces, but you're going to have to essentially follow that path all the way around from 2 connecting to 1 and then to the purple and the red. That's what forms the massive loop. And even if you take what we call center stage or the center of the map, which means it's the closest way to get to anywhere with a boost, you're still going to have to boost or move 6 spaces to be able to get to the other side, even if you're at center. And Wukong can also just sandwich himself with clones, which is going to make it very hard for Sinbad to get through because Sinbad has no, like, AoE, we call it, area of effect damage to clear off multiple clones at once. He's just going to have to attack through each of the clones as he goes. So I think, Mike, actually, you said it earlier. I think Porter is going to be MVP here if Jason is going to have any chance at winning this matchup. What do you think?
Yeah, I think if I'm Chad, first thing I'm thinking is let's wax this Porter, and not in a good way. Let's get him off the board. Get him out of here. I think that's really the only way. I'm hoping to be recrowned king of incorrect calls in saying that this will not probably be close. I think Wukong is going to just get away with this game, set up a clone wall, force Sinbad to eat through it, force him to draw cards constantly, force him to try to do something, and Sinbad's just going to feel helpless. But I think the loop is going to come into play way more than you ever wanted to. So we'll find out. We'll find out pretty quick here, I'm assuming.
That is true. We will see. But let's go ahead and take a closer look at Sinbad's deck. And Mike, I know you are quite the Sinbad fan yourself. So
I love this guy.
one of your favorites, huh? So I think you'll be a
Yes.
great one to go over the Sinbad deck. Tell us about Sinbad a little bit here.
Man, this guy, he is the king of taking you on vacation because he's got the voyages. Let's go. He's going to make it so that every time one of these little guys is used and in the discard pile, you get +1 on your movement. And not only that, they get extra damage as time goes on. Now, obviously, there's the riches beyond compare. When you're on your voyages, you got to get some gold somehow, so you draw 3 cards. Where does this come into play in this matchup? Maybe if he can get some pressure, can always keep the hand advantage. I think the only downfall Wukong really has is that he doesn't really have much cards. So just keep it going. Just keep the pressure up. Keep it going. He has plenty of draw. Wukong can't feint. The opposite side of that is Voyages can sometimes hurt you now because of the wonderful cards that we will see very soon in the Wukong key cards. There's obviously, once you get past all the Voyages, you still have the commanding impact for the 5 that's usually wanting to be feinted. The Fortune and Fate from the Porter. There's to draw 2 cards. You just keep the pressure up as Sinbad throughout the whole game because you can draw as much as you want. You can get through your deck, push out the Voyages, win the game. That's what Jason's probably going to want to be thinking of doing, or possibly another option that we haven't seen yet. Time will tell. Overall, Sinbad, grade A fighter in my opinion. Not a bait. Always pick him.
Yeah, well, we'll see how he does against Wukong. Let's take a quick look at the Monkey King here. Anar, you want to give us a rundown real quick on Wukong?
Yeah, of course. Monkey King or King of Towns, actually. So we can see Wukong takes a lot of forms: Phoenix form, Ox form, or maybe even Tortoise form. So he had a lot of attacks, huge 7-value attacks, which only can be seen in his deck. But actually, it works like some kind of mind games. Because he had Ryujingobang, which actually triggers when opponent plays a defense card. But when you play against Wukong, you want to take those Ryujingobangs to not happen the second bonus attack, but you don't want to face up the 7 attack right into your face. So that's why it always comes to big mind games. But also, if you speak about Wukong, he got the excellent defenses. So 2 copies of Bewilderment, 2 copies of Golden Chainmail is actually brutal. And also, let's talk about the Fiery Eyes That See. In this matchup, is actually a crucial card, which allows Wukong have a look in opponent's hand and choose one of the cards to put on the bottom of his deck. So in this matchup, Wukong can force Sinbad to put a Voyage Home to bottom of deck, which is great for him.
Yep, great rundown
I
on Wukong. I think the biggest thing in this matchup is just going to be those clones that he makes with his ability. He can take the damage every turn to just spawn a clone out, and it's just going to make it very difficult for Sinbad to get in. But I believe the players all are ready, so let's go ahead and get into Vorpal board and see what happens.
Just want to add a quick thing regarding Ox form and Tortoise form. They rely on boosts from the opponent. Sinbad is notorious in that he has very poor boost for values, so that's definitely going to come into play in this match.
Yeah, that's a great point. All of Sinbad's boost values are either a 1 or essentially a 0. Like, you can't even boost with Voyages, unfortunately. So there's one card, the Commanding Impact, is a 2 boost value, but everything else in the deck is a 1. So that's, I think, honestly, one of the biggest things about this matchup is that Sinbad can't take good advantage of those boost effects.
How do you take the other picks to protect them, right, and just not get hosed by some potential matchups and such. So I kind of like that. And as you mentioned, sometimes it just ends up where you have the wrong matchup or whatever.
Players are just on standby.
I like that it brings that. I mean, this is a perfect example, and
Okay, we give them the okay, so they should be starting up momentarily. I think it's no surprise that we see Wukong starting first, because Wukong starting first or second actually makes a big difference, because if he starts first, essentially he gets to use his ability to make a clone, and then he could double maneuver if he wants and set up position. And then the opponent, if they want to double maneuver and set up their position or at least match the hand count, then Wukong gets to go back to his second turn and spawn a second clone before any interactions even occur. Whereas if Wukong goes second, the opponent can move up and attack him turn 1 before he's had a chance to make any clones at all. So it's almost like a difference of starting with 0 or 2 clones, whether Wukong starts first or second. So Wukong starting first, I mean, no surprise, seeing as it was Chad's advantage, full advantage here with Yukon and first position. But it's going to definitely make things very rough for Sinbad, even rougher than they already are in this matchup.
John, if you're in Jason's shoes, how do you play this?
Well, you got to assume Chad is probably going to run to the loop, right? So I think you need to keep Porter alive at all costs. And because if you can keep Porter alive, you can kind of corner Wukong into the loop with Porter on one side and Sinbad on the other, and because they both get that movement advantage, you'll be able to chase down Wukong relatively well as long as you can actually keep Porter alive, but that's not going to be easy.
I agree completely. It's like Wukong was made to just make Sinbad cry. I don't know how else to say it. There's a lot of those characters that Wukong is just made to make them cry, and this is one of them.
So players are going to be going for mulligans here. Looks like we have just a little bit of technical difficulties with the deck counters here, since I had to spawn in the mulligan cards. We'll get that fixed momentarily. While we're on the
Truly, I
topic
wanna
of the deck counts, Dylan, how much of an impact, how much of a role do you think the deck counts and being aware of what each other's deck counts play in competitive Unmatched?
Oh, it's huge, especially if you know somebody that's aggressive, like such as Sinbad or even Robin Hood. If they're on the deck disadvantage in terms of size, you could definitely use that to your advantage by either running away or keeping that in mind on just how many cards they have left. It's definitely something that if you're new to the competitive Unmatched, you have to keep in mind.
Yep, I would agree. All right, we are just fixing that deck counter real quick, and then we should be good to jump back into Vorpal.
Personally, I would like to know if the Raft is better than Hell's Kitchen in a battle. But beyond that, I will definitely say that I am interested in what Jason intends to do here. I am looking very forward. Oh, like you said, cut off that loop, start him over there.
Yep. I think that's what he has to do. He has to keep Wukong away from the loop, and Wukong can run to that other loop on the right side, but it's not quite as effective. So we're going to see Chad make a clone, and he's probably just going to set up to where Sinbad cannot move and attack him turn 1 so that he can get that second clone out, and thus building the clone wall that Wukong is famous for. Because since he knows that Sinbad's boost values are all 1 value, he's going to probably stay 4 spaces away on either side from Porter or Sinbad, so that Sinbad cannot possibly reach him unless he boosts with a commanding impact or the voyage home, which you don't necessarily want to do. But it looks like maybe I'm wrong, and he's going to send the clone in and just keep Wukong safe. Which, I think if I'm Jason here at this point, you want to just go in and attack that clone with a Voyage while you can without having to boost, and just get that early Voyage into the discard pile and ramp up your movement. So I don't know how I feel about that play by Chad sending the clone in.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. When Sinbad starting to ramp up his voyages, he got a decent chance in pinning Wukong and not let him make more clones.
Yes.
Damage.
Wow.
Oh, I guess mine goes first.
So Wily Fighting is going to go and deal a damage to Sinbad. Since it's only a 2 value, the clone doesn't die yet because Defender resolves first, but then the Voyage to the City of Man-Eating Apes will deal the 2 auto damage to the clone. So that is quite surprising to see such a Voyage used on a clone.
Yeah,
I think
was
he just wanted
expecting to
it out
see
of
that.
there.
Yeah, but it's guaranteed kill early in the game.
I think you're right, Anar. I think that's what he was going for, was I need this clone out of here. I don't know if it was the right choice. I think personally I would want to save that for the actual Wukong, but for some reason he wanted that guy out of there. Maybe it was his only voyage and he knows that he needs to get them out, get some movement. Uh-oh. We'll find
We'll
out.
see. We'll
Yeah.
find out, yeah.
I think it was probably his only Voyage. Well, maybe not.
We have another one.
He
Wow.
had snakes.
Very surprising that he didn't use snakes.
How do we?
But I can say I love this play by Jason to use Man-Eating Apes because, you know, he can voyage home and get this back.
That is true. Wukong doesn't have any cancels, so that is the one thing that Sinbad does have going for him in this matchup, is all of his Voyages are guaranteed to land with their effects.
Also, he left Wukong open to be attacked by Sinbad.
He did.
probably
he did
has-
maneuver and then Fire Ice.
I
Did
believe
he
he
not?
maneuvered first. Am I wrong? I believe he maneuvered first.
He maneuvered and then played Fire
Yeah, he
Eyes,
maneuvered.
So then it is Jason's turn here.
Oh, maybe he is setting up a Sly Monkey right here to make the second clone.
Yeah, because the Voyages don't hit too hard yet, and he's probably waiting
Yeah.
to use his exploits and skirmishes for defense. So he's probably not expecting a big attack.
That is true. Though there can always be
Especially-
a momentous shift, maybe, that was drawn.
And commanding is on the bottom now, so he's not worried about that anymore. No fake out from that.
That's unfortunate because that's one of the scariest things about Porter is the fact that he has access to the commanding impact.
Yes. That is true,
Yeah.
although the biggest thing with Commanding Impact normally is the feint punish, but Wukong actually doesn't have any feints, so it's actually not quite as good, I don't think, in this matchup as maybe some others.
Oh, as I said, Sly Monkey here.
Perfect call there, Anar. Perfect call.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yep. Good call, good call. But
Oh, now
Jason's
he's
got to be
doing-
pretty happy about getting 2 Voyages in the discard early.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now this is actually very valuable information for Jason because he can see that there's no Ox form and no Phoenix form. So that 72 transformations is not so effective. It can get back Tortoise form though, which, as you had talked about, I believe it was you, Dylan, the Sinbad really can't get over Tortoise well. It's almost just a flat 5 defense, which is incredibly strong because Sinbad can only boost for 1 value. So
We also know that-
72 Oh, go ahead.
We know that all the cards that Chad can play are countered by feint, so we don't have to worry about the Ox form, as you were saying.
Yep. And also he could afford to take a lot of all of these cards. You know, the most it's going to be is a Taunting Laughter, which you would lose a card defending against anyways unless you unless you discard a card, which you don't necessarily want to be throwing away cards. So
I'm
There we
going
go.
to make a bold assumption here. And if he pulls a defense, I say he moves a clone next to him and tries to get him with the infinite strikes, but actually plays taunting laughter.
that would be
Something
quite a
of that
bait.
sort.
Yep.
Something of that sort, where Jason may not have the feint, and he's expecting the infinite strike. That would be either a 3 or 4 value, right, depending on how he moves. Because here's the maneuver.
Yeah, not surprised to see the maneuver, right? Because Chad doesn't want to give Jason perfect information on his hand contents. He could have drawn the Ox form for all we know right here. And so if he goes for that attack, Jason has that little bit of doubt, you know, second guessing himself based on that one unknown card.
And this is where, you know, the question was, did you want to leave, and then what do you end up doing here? I would personally want to do taunting laughter to try to make him think infinite strikes, but maybe Jason's got that all thought out too, you know. It's mind games, as we stated earlier.
So one thing though, I don't like, Chad, honestly, there's some mistakes you can make just playing in general. So what I've noticed right here is that he didn't shuffle his hand after he drew his card for his maneuver. So if Jason was paying attention to the position of Chad's cards in hand, he knows that this isn't an Ox form because Chad played one of the older cards, not the newly drawn card that he put off to the right. But that
Yeah,
was
that's a
huge,
good point, actually.
that was a huge infinite strikes that went undefended there, a 4 value. Nice.
I bet he
Okay.
wishes he fainted the first one.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I think he was thinking, well, yeah, I don't know if he had the feint. Why not just toss it the first time? Just end the
Maybe
turn.
he was waiting for Rui Jingo Bang.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or the taunting
I mean,
laughter, Mike. I think he was expecting exactly what you said with the positioning to set up and threaten the, you know, the infinite strikes, but then actually throw something else.
I wonder if Jason gets desperate, just goes for the riches to draw a voyage, knowing that probably the 5.
So what is Sinbad's biggest defense value that he can get against an Ox? I believe it's a 5, right? Other than an impact being used to boost.
It's a 6, isn't it? Isn't it a 6 with the impact boost? But he can't
Yeah,
do that.
6
with-
with
It's
the
a
impact
5.
boost.
Right. So that would be 1 damage from an Ox, and then he could do a 5. He's going to have to land those big defenses into the Oxes, I think, if he wants to win this game. And there goes one of them. Killing off a clone, getting a draw, which is pretty nice, but one of the big defenses gone is a little bit scary. Though I don't think Jason expects that he's winning this any kind of, you know, slow game. I think he knows he needs to just get damage, get attacks in while he can.
That's why I would have done the riches, but he's got a plan. He's got something thought out. The guy's always 2 steps ahead. It's just whether those 2 steps have any outcome of him winning is the question.
Yeah, he's definitely in an uphill battle here, but if anybody can pull this off with Sinbad, it's going to be Jason. I don't think I know a better Sinbad player than him.
I didn't want to, you know, I already said he was the best Beowulf player, and I didn't want to say the same thing about Sinbad, but I agree with you. I think he's a dang good Sinbad and Beowulf player. He just,
Yep.
these are his 2 characters. Those are his 2 characters, and I think that's one of the reasons he placed both of them in the games. It's just,
Yeah.
I would be very sad to not see him play Beowulf, is what I'm getting at.
Right. I really hope we see a game 3. Everybody's always rooting for a game 3, right?
Who doesn't want a game 3?
Oh, yeah.
Get out of here if you don't want a game 3. Get out of
The
here.
more content, the better. So, but we see another Voyage coming out, so Jason's already got 3 Voyages in discard pile, so that's pretty good. He can move 5 spaces with Sinbad and Porter. Chad is surprisingly taking a very aggressive route this game. You know, instead of walling up and trying to abuse the loop, he's really just going at Sinbad, which is a little bit surprising. But I think part of that has to do with Jason's smart placement of Porter on turn 1. He put him way far out in the red to kind of cut off that loop there. I think Chad also doesn't want Porter to get too involved because Porter is a drawing machine. And he doesn't want Sinbad to get too far ahead on the hand advantage in order to pressure him. But yeah, we see the early Phoenix form there.
And we know there's a 72 in hand to bring it back.
Yep, that is.
Yeah.
That's a bit concerning for Jason, for sure. Sometimes, you know, as Wukong, the Phoenix form is just buried and you don't get to see it until late or just not at all or not in time, and it makes a huge impact in your game. But with Chad finding that early here, he's got to feel pretty comfortable at this point.
Yeah, and from this point, actually, soon Wukong can play a long game and just make clones like machine.
Yep.
Yeah, the game plan may have just changed when he found out he had Phoenix this early. Because he was going, I think, pretty hyper-aggressive for a Wukong game, and now you kind of see him regress back and then pull the, use the Phoenix, and then knowing we have a 72 transformation in hand, one would think that he'd probably defend with it if Sinbad decides to attack to try to pull the Phoenix back yet again.
Yep. It's time for the clone wall, rinse and repeat. Quick and easy 72 defense there. Clone still dies, but he's going to get the Phoenix back. And
Yeah.
Toil and Danger can give some movement, which is not a bad card to use on a clone. That's actually pretty good if you're expecting a 72 and you don't have a feint.
Yeah, actually, though, we want to attack with a feint into 72 transformations into those matchup. What do you think about it?
You think you saying you don't want to attack with feint, or you do?
I mean, it's a question. Do we
Right.
want to
Do you
attack?
want to? I don't know, Dylan. What do you think? Do you want to use feints on offense here, or only on defense?
It's tricky. I'm always a fan of feinting on defense because it gets rid of your infinite strikes, your taunting laughter, your bang card. I see the play for an offense. I don't know if it's the right call. If he decides to do it, I'd be interested to see where it brings him. But I don't think that's the play personally.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Mike? Offense or defense feints?
In this matchup, Sinbad has nothing to lose. Use him on offense, brother.
Right, that was my attack. So now it's your go, right?
Yep, I think so. All right. Good.
Yep.
And reset my time. There we go. Okay.
I think there's a point at which you take attacks, and sometimes you can use what you were going to use on defense as an attack in the end. And yeah, Sinbad's got nothing to lose. He's got everything to gain because he's in such a downward spiral in this matchup at any time. Not speaking specifically here, but any time.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a tough matchup for Sinbad, as we've talked about, mainly because he's a melee fighter, and melee fighters just struggle against Wukong and the Clone Wall, and the fact that he has no AoE, and he has such low boost values.
Yeah, everything's stacked up against his favor. But if anyone's gonna pull out the victory, it's got to be Jason. But
That's right.
things aren't looking so good.
We know the riches is in hand. I feel like the deeper you go in your deck, are you worried that you're gonna pull, let's say, Voyage home in your hand and then not be able to get rid of it before the Fiery Eyes again? I'm not sure, but
I think personally
there
he's
was that,
saving the riches to discard for something like a Taunting Laughter if he needs to.
or the one value boost might, for some reason, come into big effect.
Right.
And actually, one more thing to mention: the chat's playing very good at positioning. So he keeps gap between his clone and Wukong. In case if one of his clones are going to die, he can always have an opportunity to make the third clone again.
Yeah, Anar, that's a great point. And it shows how much experience Chad has playing Wukong by doing that, because a lot of players, they do just fully sandwich Wukong between the clones, but then you lose out on clone generation. So now we see Jason, again, expertly using Toil and Danger to attack a clone, goes undefended, and then he moves up adjacent to Wukong, which then stops the clone generation.
Yeah.
Leaves
Little
yourself
bit-
open for a double attack, though, with 4 cards in hand.
That is true. It's a little bit scary.
Especially with 6 cards, great chance of there being an Ox.
Yep.
Here's the great debate. Do I take it? He knows he has the
Jingle
Ryu,
Bong.
the Rui in hand. Yeah, he knows
Yeah.
he's got the Jingle Bong in hand. He knows he's got a Taunting Laughter in hand.
At this point, I feel like he's just got to throw everything, like all the chips on the table. I wouldn't be surprised if it's undefended.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, huge take here.
I think you were right, Dylan. I think he had to just, say, well, if it's the Ox, you got me. But I think that was his best chance to take it undefended. And he did, which I think was smart. But unfortunately for him, there is the Ox. I think that's going to just about seal the deal here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. The only thing he can
Yeah.
do right now is to just make the end score card look a little bit better.
Yeah.
And here comes
health
the Ryu
differential.
Jingle Bong, I think.
Jingle Bong, yeah, because he can't take a Taunting Laughter. You got to defend at this point. Well, again, I mean, you could just not defend and call it out and say, well, I'm not winning otherwise, so I'm going to have to make the gutsy calls.
Yeah.
I hate to
For
say
sure.
how painful this is to just watch, man, like from any perspective. I mean, unless you're probably Chad's wife in the chat, you're probably loving what's going on right now. But
Oh, yeah.
from a competitive standpoint, I don't know, man. I think I wanted to see another close game, and I just can't see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all wanted to see a close game. We all wanted to see Game 3, which would have been an interesting match. But unfortunately, sometimes this is just how it goes based on the draft. And so that's another big difference between Conquest and Arsenal. In Conquest, you can get guaranteed counter picks on one end, but then on the other end, you can ban off that counter, And in Arsenal, though, it's just kind of left up to RNG with the fighter assignments and where they happen to line up.
It was actually a very smart play by Chad, because Jason knows that Chad has the Ryu Jingle Bong in his hand, but he's not going to use it. He wanna throw some attacks and Jason to make Jason thinks that it is a Ryu Jingle Bong, and the Ox was a great play by him.
Yes. All right, so here we see a shift on defense into a 3-value Infinite Strikes, so fully blocking that. Chad is just going for the kill here. He wants this over swift and
He
clean.
wants the finals. He wants to know if he's gonna face Mr. Goods or Mr. Blade.
Yep.
He wants it right now. He's got his eyes set on it.
Yeah.
He's made it to the finals twice and gotten stopped. Is he going to make it there a third time here? This could be it right here. It could be the taunting. But there's still the taunting, there's still the Jingle Bong, so it's still a really tough 50-50 for Jason. And he is going to throw another shift. And it is the taunting. Again,
It's the taunting.
Chad's just
Yeah,
going
it's
for the
taunting.
kill. He is going for the kill. No tricks. He's just throwing it all out there, trying to end this game.
Does Jason throw the other card and then just riches, or does he throw the riches?
I think he's got to throw the other card in riches. I think that's his only hope. Oh, no, he did look
He
like
got
he
rid
did
of
throw the
rich-
riches.
Yo.
Oh
Yeah.
my.
Oh,
Watch them both be riches.
I don't know what the other card is. Yeah, I was gonna say they both be riches would be hilarious. That'd be hilarious.
maybe he had Voyage Home in his hand. We don't know.
Right. He does still have the heal voyage, so that's not insignificant by any means. And I don't know, I just really would have liked to see him keep the riches there. Riches and hope to draw into maybe something like the heal voyage and then throw an attack, try to heal up and have some cards in hand. But he's in a really
Well, you know
tough
what
spot.
one of the, you know what 1/3 of Chad's deck is right now. So yeah, I would have wanted to just risk it. You know, he's thinking about ending the game. There's no defense in his hand. You know, well, flip the table. Maybe Chad doesn't have a defense in his hand. I would have riches, hope for the heal voyage, use that first, followed by the voyage home if I got real lucky, and see how the cards played out.
Yeah, I think,
A lot of factors in that. A lot of factors in that.
yeah, it's obviously a really rough spot. I think Jason right here probably wants to maneuver, and he can get really far away with his high movement because he's got 3 voyages in the discard already, so he can move 5 spaces. And then I think send Porter in and hope to use a Porter draw attack on one of those clones right there. Hopefully killing off a clone and getting Jason some more cards in the process and getting Sinbad far away out of danger. I think that is the ideal, at least the safe play right here. But safe plays at this point in the game probably still are not going to win you the game. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I really would have liked to see that riches, but we don't know what that other last card is.
Yeah, and one more thing
Yeah.
to point out, I want to say that at this point, Sinbad don't want to attack anyone with his voyages, because Wukong can play Golden Chainmail for defense and deal some chip damage for Sinbad.
All good. I was throwing this.
Yes, that's a good point, Anar, because a 5-value voyage would take 1 damage recoil.
So I take 2.
So we see 2 damage onto Wukong
And it's a leap away, so you get to
with a leap away. So Wukong gets to move, and then Sinbad gets to move as well.
So I guess you're not worried as Jason if you think about it, because all he has in hand is Jingo Bong and Phoenix form. So
Yes, because he was able to not bait out that defense right there, Chad would have to be relying on drawing an attack in order to kill Jason with.
and I'm just assuming Jason's just gonna run away. This is where I think the riches would have come in handy. Is
Oh, yeah.
you know what if you what you know you never know what you were gonna draw. You never know. It could be 3 regroups, but you
Hey,
know, I
regroup
just-
undefended on a clone is not too bad in this situation,
Yes.
right?
Draw more cards. Draw more cards.
Yeah,
Just
so
draw more cards.
I don't know. Very interesting. I feel like maybe Jason is going to try and pin Chad's Wukong here, and, well, maybe not. That's what it was looking like. If he pushes him back to the gray, it would indicate probably the intention of a pin.
You know, it's interesting. We predicted that he would just defeat the Porter as soon as possible. Porter's untouched.
Yeah, he's been completely ignoring
Porter.
Porter.
Non-factor right now.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy. Chad just had a different game plan than we did off the start, and again, I just think part of that comes down to Jason's opening placement of Porter blocking off the loop. And Chad did have a lot of offense. We saw a lot of red cards in his hand when Jason used that peak voyage. So
If he top decks the Ox form, it is lethal.
Yeah,
Yep. Confirmed lethal, right? Because we know that the commanding impact is on the bottom of the deck.
Yeah. Looks like Chad is ignoring
And
the
he's only got
3P
one card.
tactics.
Oh?
Well, that's true. He only has one
Yeah,
card in
ignore
hand anyways.
P. We're gonna find out real quick here. What's I'm probably just double maneuver because he didn't get what he wanted, but
Yeah, Chad's in such a comfortable spot at this point. He doesn't need to make any risky plays. He can just play it
yeah,
safe.
why risk it?
Yeah, just play it safe, and you're gonna find the win eventually. And Jason, on the other hand, is really on a clock, right? He's just got to make some big plays and make them quick.
This is where you throw Sinbad in a corner probably and just hope that you draw all your Porter cards right now and just have fun with Porter.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe we can see MVP Porter here.
That's right.
This correct prediction brought to you by Big Small Mike. Small on the screen, big in person. Coming to you.
Kind of like Big Small Alice, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Right, we're gonna see Porter going in. Oh
Draw two.
my gosh.
Oh,
Oh,
feint.
the offensive feint.
Yeah.
Could be all he had, honestly.
Those are the ones I need to win. Those type of things. Yeah. Yep.
Not sure if I agree with that play, but he's got to do something. And
Yep,
he is
could be all he
chipping
had.
away at the health, although he could just easily Phoenix form here back up to 14.
Yeah. I think that's what we'll see. We'll see a maneuver to get away from adjacency to the Porter, and then a Phoenix form. Heal up. Keep a pocket. Because he can bring one clone down to the... Oh, he's going to boost even. Wow.
Wow.
He's gonna come into attack with that clone right there that's in yellowish, tannish.
Yep. He's
Oh
probably
my.
got the Ox form at this point.
He's got the Ox. He must, or something that makes him think he can win, or just kind of reverse the, reverse.
Well, it could be a taunting laughter as well, right? Taunting is lethal. If Jason defends, he doesn't have anything to
taunting is
discard,
lethal.
and he just saw a feint use, so there's only one feint left. So I think this is a taunting laughter lethal right here. Wow.
Oh, he was just
Okay.
going for whatever I have in hand.
Yep. He just wants to end it. He's
Yeah, he's just going for it. To hell with the play it safe. This game needs to end right now, he says.
Yep.
Adding some juicy plays.
People love the spice, right? Those spicy plays are what everybody's here for.
Chad's like, I got a kid crying in the next room. I got a dog that needs petting. Get me out of here. Get me out of here.
But did Chad have Raging Obong in his hand?
Well, he boosted with
He
a
did,
Jingabong.
but he boosted with
Ah, he boosted. Yeah, didn't say it.
I mean, for all we know, he could have had a second copy, though. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, if,
There we go. Get some cards.
but if we see boosting with the Sly Monkey and attacking with the Raging Obong into Sinbad, it would be lethal, I guess.
Yep, if Sinbad
Oh,
defended, that
you're
is.
right.
Right?
Yeah,
It's still kind
of
of
course.
a 50-50. And if he didn't boost with the Jingabong, then Jason would know that it's still in hand and it's still an option.
Yeah.
What do we think? Another boost in an attack?
Nah,
Nope,
Sinbad's got
too
too many
many.
cards now. Again, I still think Chad is just going to play it safe here. The reason he went for that last play was because it was high reward with very, very minimal risk. So he just saw an opportunity and he took it just because why not? But he's not going to leave himself too vulnerable.
Yeah, looks like he using double P tactics, patience and persistence.
Yes. Not the third P. He's actually just
Yeah.
avoiding the Pucon loop altogether.
Even if Sinbad comes in and whiffs something, by this point he has to have at least one bewilderment or one chainmail.
Yep,
Spending a bewilderment on
on a clone.
a clone is kind of
Put him
interesting.
next to him.
I think
Probably
that
maybe he's got the confirmed lethal.
yeah, I think that indicates he wants to make an offensive push here.
First action, I'll attack. Attack clone.
He is gonna make an attack first action.
My money's on
I mean,
Ox.
if he doesn't have the 4, then it's just game over.
Yeah, and there's only one more 4. We've seen both exploits used and a leap away, so this is probably the Ox right here.
Another one of those pro gamer moves. Very low risk, very high reward.
Yep.
Yeah.
Though almost every
My
play
money
at this
is
point.
wrong here.
Oh no!
Here it is.
Oh
Ooh.
no!
I'm
It
just
do
gonna stop
be like
predicting.
that
Everything I do is
sometimes.
wrong.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, this is brutal.
He does get the leap away, so he doesn't get the double attack. Well, another attack from another card,
Right.
but
I mean, I think almost every play at this point is low risk, high reward for Chad. So now that the leap away is gone, there is a actually confirmed lethal with Ox form no matter what. So if a 72 can get triggered to get back the Ox, that'll be it. Sinbad's got to throw a Toil blocking the second part of the Jingu Bong, being that tricked you attack. Anybody who's unfamiliar with bonus attacks, these are called, they're essentially 2 attacks in a single card. So Jingu Bong is a 0 value if the opponent defended, which Jason did with the leap away. Then the second attack triggers of the 4 value tricked you. So Jason will take 1 from Toil defense right there. And then he'll get his 3 movement, and Chad will have 1 more action. So now Chad can easily just maneuver Wukong right into that little pocket he's created in the yellow, and then move the clone that's in purple 1 space away just to leave 1 open space for a new clone generation. That'll do it just as well. Getting a little bit better map coverage too if he decides he wants to go on offense and chase. This is a brutal matchup, but I think what we all want to see is just good play, and I think we've seen good play from Jason here. Other than the one miscalled Ox form, I mean, he's done everything else correctly.
Yeah.
and how do you blame somebody from, knowing what the other person had in hand at the time, other than the Ox?
Yeah,
Anybody else would have probably taken it.
I would have taken it as well. Yep. You have to take attacks against Wukong at one point or another. You cannot defend every attack, so eventually you're just gonna have to go for it. Shift.
Oh.
Wow, he's just still not throwing out border cards. I just don't think he has them. I don't think he's drawing them,
Yeah.
which is pretty crazy. I mean, he's only got 10 cards left in deck. Chad still has Phoenix, I believe.
In hand, yes.
Yes, in hand.
I wonder if he ever decides that Porter is being annoying and goes after Porter at this point, or if he just fully ignores him the whole rest of the game.
I don't see a reason to attack Porter the rest of the game.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I don't see a reason why to just attack other than if you have an Ox form, just keep turtling up until you draw it, then go in and smack him.
Yep. Yeah, he's definitely has a clear-cut win condition here.
Heal Voyage would be quite amazing right here.
It really would. It really would.
Unless the Golden Chainmail's around, and then that kills him.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't kill, right? I think the voyage count. Oh no, it is.
I was gonna
No,
say, I
no,
think we.
it's a 5 value voyage, so it still wouldn't
Only
be
one
lethal
damage.
yet.
Oh, yeah, it would only be 1 damage, but still, and then the heal too.
And then that all opens up a whole other plethora of win conditions like wily fighting. Then
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
Sinbad's definitely got his back against the wall here. I mean, he's down in
Jason
deck
Reed,
count.
pretty
He's down
close.
in the health significantly. He's down in like the quality of his cards, right? He's already used all of his 4-value defenses, so definitely.
if he's not
rough.
careful, he's going to be running into exhaustion too.
Yep.
I'll maneuver. I'll boost with the slide.
Boost. Is this the Ox?
Oh, look. Yeah, looks like he got the
Eh,
ox.
He was just digging for it. I mean, why not?
Yep.
I'll have that clone attack.
Is this going to be it?
Dead dogs.
Nope.
Wow, he
Oh,
feints
wow.
a 72, stopping the recursion of the Ox. That is massive. That's a massive win for Jason.
Yeah, it was a risky play by Chad.
Alright,
It was.
But kind of as we say though, is anything really that risky right now with the position that he's in?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Will I eat my words later? Let's find out.
Here's the
He's
72. There's
getting the
voyage
Ox.
home.
Oh my!
And I think we know the Ox is coming back.
Yeah.
Ox is back, although Jason can turtle up at least for 1 turn. But, I mean, that just doesn't really do him any good, right? That's the problem. Sure, he gets all these voyages back, but he's dead to the next attack. He doesn't really have a choice.
Yeah, I think Sinbad can take his place in the
Boost value of
red
chainmail. You have that
space
it's
to not give Sun Wukong reach him and find
With
out the heal voyage.
Right.
with Voyage Home being gone and Commanding Impact on the bottom of the deck, does he have any other boost twos?
Nope.
No.
I
That's it.
don't think so.
So that's
No,
confirmed
commanding
Ox form then.
Yep.
I don't even
He
think there's any 4s left for defense.
I only have 1 boost 3 left, which I think is a Jingo.
So Jason's win condition right at this point, he has to maneuver, he has to find the heal voyage at all costs. He has to boost and put Porter in that starting player 2 spot, and Sinbad back 1 space in that red, so that Wukong cannot possibly reach Sinbad this turn, and then he's going to have to throw the heal voyage.
no.
He has to boost.
Zero.
Oh, he doesn't even have to boost because he get that extra movement from the voyage home. So good, he got the right position. Wukong would have to
Unless
go
there's
6
a-
spaces, which you can't do in this deck. He can only move a max of 5. So
Can't Jingo Bong, is that a 4? Or
no, it's a
is that-
3-value
am I wrong?
boost. So Sinbad is
Oh.
safe this turn in particular, but he has to attack with the heal voyage on his next turn, or else he is confirmed dead. So his only win con right here is to pull off the heal voyage. And the problem is the heal voyage, if it goes into a wily fighting, then it still doesn't even help because he's still at 3 health and doesn't kill the clone.
I don't want to claim checkmate yet, but
There's a glimmer of...
We're in check. We're in.
We are in check, yes. Jason has to throw the heal voyage here.
I'm assuming he did not get it.
Well, I mean, he might be thinking about which clone to attack or something of the sort.
There was just a big sigh of undoubting.
Wily. Yep, so Heal Voyage doesn't even do it.
Oh, but he can get rid of the discard. He can get rid of the.
He can hit the
Ox
Ox. He
form.
can hit the Ox form. Maybe live another day.
Yeah.
Wow.
25% of possibility here.
Wow.
Or
RNG
maybe
did
even
not pair him well.
Come on,
the
let's
first
see
game.
the Ox. Let's see the Ox. Oh, it's not.
Oh, that's game.
Really push this one to the end.
Yeah, GG's.
GG. All
Oof,
right, let's
that
listen
was
into
rough.
the players.
The previous turn I had drawn into one of these and an Ox, and so it was just a really good deal for me.
I don't know that it's if it's true, but it feels like on this map against Wukong, I have to just like make the play pattern weird, where it's just like not just me move and attack, like to try to like dip our hands. If you Phoenix, I need to try to make sure that like you pay for that slot and that time.
Yep. Yeah, you were definitely doing that, making it uncomfortable for me when I wanted to Phoenix, because I did get the undefended Ox. My
That changes things quite a bit. The math
yeah,
alters.
my thought process was, all right, just dig for the next Ox. So that's
Exactly. Yeah, because I had to dig for the heal voyage and try to double it up, but it was dipped. So
yeah. I wasn't getting chainmail because I was waiting for like Sinbad to come and attack me, right? To go ahead and throw a chainmail into your 5 value, heal voyage, so that I'd at least make you take one. But I wasn't finding it either, so I was like, all right.
I got so one of the reasons to go in like that is to expect that I get any of the fortune and fates, and those were all like in the bottom like 12 or something. It was it's tough for Sinbad there because I need to win the hand advantage like while you're pressured so that you're uncomfortable, and to not win the hand advantage is that's bad times.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah.
But well played, and good luck in the finals.
Hey, thanks, Jason. Yeah, great games. A lot of fun. Good luck tomorrow. Sounds like you've got your hands full today and tomorrow. So hope that all goes well.
Wow, what a match! I think that second game that we just saw, it started off pretty interesting in my opinion. I think there was some hope at the start, but after that Ox, I think that was probably the turning point there. But I mean, Mike, he still put on a decent show with Sinbad. I mean, are you still you gotta still be proud of your boy, right?
I think you couldn't ask for a better game as Sinbad. All things considered, I still think Jason is the best Sinbad, the best Beowulf. Huge fan of Jason. Look forward to seeing how far he gets next time. He always makes it pretty far. He wins the Gen Con tournaments. I don't think he would be very upset. I think the only thing he may be upset at himself after all this is the T-Rex map pick. That's the only thing I can see him being upset about.
I would actually agree with that. Yeah, I think that was a crucial, I don't want to say error, but like that was a crucial point in this match altogether, because if he would have won that game 1, then even though he got counterpicked in game 2 here, we would have gone on to game 3 and anything could have happened there with Jason's Beowulf of all things into Chad's Moon Knight. I honestly would have loved to see that matchup. It's a shame we don't get to see that, but you know, that's just how it goes sometimes. And especially, I mean, in Arsenal format, it's a blast to play, but sometimes you just get unlucky with the assignments, unfortunately. So, I mean, Dylan, are you surprised at all by the results? What do you think about this?
Well, after seeing what the placements were for the first and the second game, I kind of expected an outcome like this. It was a very close first game. I'm very surprised that it was as close as it was. The second game, he did the best he could. It was definitely against his favor, but I think just Chad was an outstanding opponent, and they're both great players, but Chad just took the win on this one.
Yep. That's just how it goes. And yeah, I mean, Jason did show his skill in unmatched overall. He fought some uphill battles, but he fought them well, and that first game really was something. I mean, it all came down to RNG at the end, and he had a shot to win despite how good of an opening Chad did have in that first game. And this one in the Sinbad game, I mean, he played it pretty well. The only thing I would have liked to see, Mike, like we talked about, is that when he discarded the draw scheme, right, and how the game would have went if he would have kept that and actually used it instead of discarding it. Looking at his draw order and the fact that he still never found his healing voyage, I don't think it would have changed anything at that point, but would have been interesting to see. But yeah, it looks like Chad is going to be our first finalist, and he is making it there once again for the third time in a row. So, Anar, I know you had said you were rooting for Chad in this one. He did come out on top. And do you think he's going to take it all the way this time?
It's an interesting question, but if we see baked goods in finals, I'll be 100% rooting for baked goods. So,
Oh, there it is, fellas. The people's champion. The people's champion.
yeah, people's champion. But I think Chad is a very brilliant player, and he deserves a win on the whole tournament because he made third time for the finals.
Yep.
So good luck to him.
Yeah, third time. I mean, all the players in the top four, like I talked about earlier, are very, very deserving of their place, and all four of them would be deserving of a win at this point, because Jason, you know, it's his first appearance on stream for the semifinals, but like I said, he's made countless top eights, just barely missed out. Baked goods, I mean, he's been in the semifinals twice now. Chad has been in the actual finals for the third time this will be, and Darkblade has also, this is his second time in the semifinals as well. So they're all very deserving players, and I'm happy to watch and commentate their games because this is just a blast, and I can't wait to find out who takes the whole thing. But we are going to have you know, the grand finals tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. But before that, we still have another semifinal to do just in a little bit later today. That's going to be Baked Goods versus Darkblade. So that's going to be such a match. And Anar, I know you had said that you wanted to do commentary for this first one so that you can spectate the second one and root on Baked Goods. So it's going to be a fun time for you, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Although, what time is it going to be for you? I mean, it's going to be pretty late, isn't it?
Not so late. It would be 10 p.m. for me, I guess.
10 p.m. Okay. Well, that's not too bad. So, depending on how long it goes, you'd probably be done by maybe 1 p.m. or 1 a.m., I should say. But,
yeah.
Yeah, that'll be a fun match to watch. And then we'll figure out who Chad's opponent is going to be. So it's going to be interesting. And we are going to get the players in for interviews in just a minute here. I believe we'll be interviewing Jason first, and then we will get Chad in shortly after. They're just figuring out technical stuff. Man, that T-Rex game, though, I can't believe how close that was. That was just a blast to watch.
It went from very lopsided to very, very close.
Very close. Yep, so we're going to get Jason in here. All right, here we have TDCJason. Welcome, Jason. First of all, I want to say congrats on your tournament run so far. I mean, this is your best one yet. It's been a long time coming, you know, for you to finally make the streamed event. I know you've just barely missed out multiple times, but happy to finally see you make it. And unfortunate that you're coming off a loss here, but man, just congratulations on your tournament run. You did a great job.
Thank you. Thanks. And thanks to everybody that's organized this. This is a really good experience.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I hope to see you back again for more in the future, of course. And maybe we'll see you make the streamed event, you know, again and take it all the way next time, right?
Yeah, that's the plan.
That's the plan. That's always the plan. So anyways, yeah. I want to ask you a few questions. First of all, about the draft. So we were really unsure how that was going to go, and once we saw that you had T-Rex, the big question was, were you going to assign T-Rex at all? If so, were you going to put it on advantage, which is telegraphed, or on disadvantage like you've tried in your previous match, which I know that didn't quite go so well, or were you just going to forego T-Rex altogether? So give me a little bit about your thought process with T-Rex there.
Sure. I think I benefited a lot by playing him on disadvantage or playing her on disadvantage before, because it means that I'm willing to do that. So I think that that helped me a little bit to potentially play the shell game there. And the draft and the assignment phase was very interesting all around. T-Rex got taken later, so it wasn't like an initial choice. It was after the dust had cleared on a couple of rounds of bans, or one round of bans at least. So then I thought that, I knew that like the +2 heroes are pretty good in there, and I was going to be okay no matter what there. So that was when I felt more confident with, because I needed the map so much more and wasn't willing to like flip the coin on neutral. And I thought that I would like actively lose on disadvantage here into that lineup. So so I wanted that to just kind of like stick a pin in that. And then the rest of the assignment became like a 50-50 with like whether Wukong would line up into Sinbad or not. And
Right.
I lost that coin flip.
Yeah, unfortunately. Now, so that brings up my next question of, I mean, you had Little Red, but you chose not to assign her. And now, is that because you're just not comfortable playing her in general? Because I would have thought that Little Red would have been a great one to assign with Wukong, on the other end.
Yeah, I mean, it was really that. I just have so much more familiarity with Sinbad that I was willing to risk it. And I think that there are hands, even in that Yukon, where Sinbad can do it, but I have to take a lot of risks, and I have to have a lot of things go my way in sequence. And because of that and the familiarity, and that I felt really comfortable if the 50-50 flipped, and it was Wukong and Beowulf and Sinbad and Moon Knight, because of that confidence is why I did it.
Okay, that makes sense, yeah. Unfortunate to see such a hard counter pick, but like you said, it's the risk you got to take, right? And familiarity plays a big role in Arsenal, especially because you want to be comfortable with the fighters that you have and that you are playing, and that gives you the best chance to make optimal plays. So yeah, that makes sense. Now, looking at that first game, I mean, it all came down to RNG at the end, right? If you would have hit the skirmish, I mean, if the skirmish was at the bottom of the deck, the last card, you would have had the win. And after your opening play, where you boosted in, which I like what you did, and Chad just expertly called out what you were going to hit with. I mean, it was just a perfect looking glass, right? It put him on the hand advantage right off the bat, and it just set him up perfectly. And after that, I was like, oh man, this is so bad. Alice has got this in the bag. But you brought it back down so close to essentially just RNG at the end there. And you definitely had a win condition. So, I mean, how were you feeling throughout that game?
The ripple play worked out pretty well, and I put him in some pretty awkward situations. So I was generally happy. There were a couple times where it felt like things got called really well, and credit to Chad, because that looking glass. There are a few things. I mean, like that looking glass is a tremendous play there, because it could be so bad later, but the sticker snack off of that, it was that was a thing of beauty. So those are a few things that like really need to go right for Alice there, I think, and they did. And then at the end it definitely did. It came down to I roll the dice and skirmish is gone, or skirmish is at the bottom, and either of those still end it. So I think I take those chances.
Yeah, I really like what you did with that final couple of turns. I mean, you mathed out your win condition and you went for it. That was your only hope, and good on you for even coming up with that, because we were just like, we thought it was over, but man, you just brought it so close. So well done. And I guess I want to open it up to the other commentators. Any of you guys have any questions for Jason here? Go ahead, Mike.
Hi, Jason. It's been good. Followed you all tournament, as you may know. Hope I didn't make you a worse player. We had some great conversations.
Oh.
What made you pick T-Rex Paddock more than, something like Hanging Gardens or Marmorial or anything like
A lot of
that?
that came down to familiarity. Like that's where I've seen those matches happen the most. And if those are better matches, I tried to follow other streams to see what other people chose when they were on advantage. And I was so impressed with the game where Spee played against Phantom and chose Herot that that part of me just wanted to go with what I'm familiar with, because I knew that there's a bunch of things that could be potentially chosen, and certainly for a Ripple standpoint, those that you mentioned can be really good. But like I also thought that the T-Rex paddock was pretty good from a Ripple standpoint too, and like the distances were fine. It's at tight quarters, so I'm as confident as I could be with T-Rex, because certainly as compared to Beowulf and Sinbad, I had much fewer games in with T-Rex. It felt like a comfort pick. I didn't want to like outthink the room and put myself into a situation where, like, because of unfamiliarity, I'm playing T-Rex on Sarpedon, because that was, in my last round, that was a match that I didn't know that going in, how bad that would be. And T-Rex suffers on Sarpedon. So I assume that she's going to be the ones that you mentioned, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, so more of a comfort pick than anything. Again, I like it. I think an Arsenal, you gotta stick with what you're comfortable with. So, good question, Mike. Any other questions from the other commentators or words for Jason? Anything in particular? I know Dylan, you were in his group. You got any words for your buddy here?
Yeah, I gotta say I was the only one that believed in you, Jason. So, as groupies, gotta stick together. I was very proud of your T-Rex play, and it was very unfortunate that you got the Sinbad versus Wukong. Although I was very impressed with how you played. I think you made a very good plays, and especially that Ox form where it could have been the tricked you, or Riju Bingo. Sorry, the bang one. I can't remember what it's called. I would have done the same. Excellent plays, and I just look forward to your next tournament plays.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, that was really interesting. Like I need to put pressure on the hand and just take a bunch of hits so that like I force double maneuvers all of the time, and the card draw didn't happen. And then when I saw the hand, there was no Ox, and the Ox was then quickly drawn. So that was it makes it hard for those like real non-standard play patterns to work out. But it was fun, and Chad played it well.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think you saw any of your Porter draw attacks, did you, that game?
No, because that's really what does it, is that like you get to Fortune and Fate in and like put that pressure on, and then it becomes a situation where Wukong is certainly never double attacking, but often will be using a double maneuver. And in those situations where like Wukong has to like move and attack, there are or any turn where Wukong ends with a clone right next to Sinbad, then you have those potential of like the first attack movements to get in and really attack Wukong and at least make Wukong very nervous. And in general, that's the way I feel that Sinbad, especially on that map, has to play that game. Any decision that would like you could imagine it making Wukong nervous, you should probably do it.
Yeah, I mean that's a great game plan. It's good macro strategy right there for the matchup. Because obviously it's Wukong favored for many reasons, but you had a good game plan going in, and unfortunately you just didn't find the card draw, the right cards, to pull that off. But oh well. I did.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask too. I mean, so you had never played Chad before in Unmatched, is that right?
That's true. We've never played. I've watched plenty of his streams, and it's one of those like I feel like I know him and that we have, but we just haven't.
Right.
Until now.
Okay, so because you never played, I mean, what was your mindset going in? I mean, being sort of an unknown entity, did that affect your draft at all?
I did look at all of the choices and that Chad had made previous in the tournament and what sequences, like, because we don't have full information about everyone else's previous draft, you kind of have to like reverse engineer how you expected that their draft went. So I have like a flow chart of what I expected that Chad had chosen, and there was a surprising amount of Beowulf that he had played up until this point, which made me nervous because I want to play Beowulf. I like Beowulf quite a bit. So I took Beowulf a little earlier than expected, and I would say that I still feel like I probably won the draft portion, but then I think I lost the assignment portion, and then I lost the leader-follower 50-50, because it would have been much harder if in the Moon Knight Beowulf. But during that draft, it was. I thought that went pretty well, and I think I was advantaged by watching some of those decisions before. We had the bans on the initial 4. We both tried to decide whether to like kind of be too cute by half and like force folks into things, or to like take T-Rex and remove Achilles. There's a bunch of really interesting dynamics, and I wish that got shared, because like there was enough decisions there that like that was a game unto itself, and we both came out pretty close, but like slightly favored in each of those phases.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really interesting, and he made choices that were just different enough from what I expected, but just real smart. In every case, there's like, I think there's 3 things that he'd likely choose here, and he chose the right one most of the time. So it was really good.
Yeah, awesome. And Anar, you have something to say for Jason?
Yeah, of course. I want to congratulate Jason for such an outstanding result. And I was surprised you played very well, regardless of matchups you've got. And also you played outstanding against Phantom X, my big friend, in the quarterfinals. Yeah, it was such amazing games. Thank you so much, and congratulate you again.
Thanks. Yeah, and Phantom played tremendously well too. That was a really fun experience. In fact, I want to really thank the supporting staff, that everyone going into the stream, and all of you taking your opportunities to like to do the commentary, all of the scaffolding and restoration games, because this is a really great experience. It takes a lot of folks, and truly appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. I mean, you're appreciated as well as a player and supporter of it all. I mean, the whole event, it takes everybody involved to make this thing happen. So I do have one more question from an anonymous person for you, Jason, but what happened?
Anonymous.
No,
Very anonymous person.
I got. So
got.
So I think that's a question you really need to ask Chad, because he was the happening-er.
He was the one making it happen. Yeah, that's right. Yep. Well, as Mike likes to say, you got arsenaled
on archery.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah. So, fun fact, Jason. I think we talked about the combat archery, and he's ready to take out his anger with his loss. Maybe not anger, but he's got to get some revenge on his opponents in the archery field.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, Jason, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to say before we sign off?
No, I'm good. I'll see you in the next one.
Excellent. Yes, I will see you in the next one. Hopefully, we get to play against each other next time in the finals, absolutely. Right? That's the goal.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Thanks for playing. Well done. Again, congratulations on your run, and appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
All right, take care. And we are going to get Chad in here next. There he is, Unmatchad, also known as Chad. Chadicus, Chaddington, or whatever. I don't know what you said last time. The man of many names, but we're just going to stick with Chad. So, Chad, congrats on your win. Once again, you're going to go on to the finals for the 3rd time in a row, I might add. So, how are you feeling after that big win? Oh, technical difficulties. Bear with us one moment. Chad, I think you're muted. There you go.
Sorry about that.
How you feeling, Chad?
Yeah, feeling great. I've been in the finals twice before. This will be my 3rd time, and I got 2nd both of those other times. So I would love to go ahead and take home the dub this time. But if I don't and I get 2nd 3 times in a row, I think that's pretty cool too.
Definitely. That's an accomplishment in itself.
Yeah, so yeah, feeling great. Fighter assignment really went my way. So I this is just how it happens sometimes. So super happy with being able to have the winning side of some matchups, but that first game was incredibly scary. So
yes. Yeah. So I want that first game. Oh my gosh, we all thought pretty much you were in the driver's seat after that masterful turn 1 play. So. Did you have other defenses in the hand? What made you throw the looking glass? I want to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we're talking about first turn when he boosted in and attacked me.
Yep.
Yeah, I had so starting hand, I had a Looking Glass, a it's Drink Me, the draw 2 cards.
Yeah.
Yep, Drink Me, a Skirmish, a Momentous Shift, and I think the other Scheme, the one that moves me 3 spaces and lets me change size. So
Sure.
I was definitely wanting to mulligan. However, there was lots of card draw there. Just 2 from Looking Glass and then 2 from Drink Me, which draws me 2 cards and lets me change sizes. And I know that the way I lose this matchup, I think, is if I get caught without defense. So
Yep.
my thought was maybe stick with all the card draw rather than mulligan, and maybe don't get any great versatiles or any stuff, and I don't have the card draw to keep up with Rex. So that was my thought process there. So I did have other defenses, but one was a skirmish and one was a shift. So my thought process was first turn, I'm going to throw Looking Glass. Hope it is the ignore one, because I feel like that's a pretty great option for Rex to open with out of the gate. So I felt pretty confident there, as well as not a momentous, a Commanding Impact. I felt was a good option for him to throw 2, in which I would have taken 2 damage. So I felt like either way, I was pretty happy with the result, unless he chose the one that he can boost and gain another action. So I was definitely worried about that, but ended up not needing to worry about it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that just really puts you in control of that matchup. And we noticed right after that, like second turn, I mean, you had hand advantage on the T-Rex, and that's not easy to do. And so I think you made the right call, keeping your hand full of card draw, and definitely paid off. But even throughout the game, I mean, it was so close, and by the end, it came down to some RNG. It was like, well, if that skirmish was your last card in deck, Jason had it won. So I can't believe how close it ended up being in the end. But yeah, well played on that one. You made a lot of really good plays, so very impressed. As always, it's not like we expect anything else. But so I wanted to ask too, I mean, you've never played Jason before, right? And I know me and you have talked a bit about drafts and whatnot. But what was your thought, or did you have a game plan going into the draft, being that you've never played against Jason before and never really seen much of him?
Yeah, so my thought process was I know Jason is masterful at the fighters that he's really good at. I knew that going in, that when he gets a fighter that he's confident with, I think there's room for me to worry, and I think that he's played those fighters into a lot of the matchups across the board. So I didn't want it not only for him to get a fighter that he liked to pilot, but to get it into a matchup that I might not have played before, and he might have played before with a fighter he was confident into. So my thought process was I knew that he liked, Bigfoot, Beowulf, Bigfoot, Beowulf, Sinbad, Yananga. I kind of knew some of these fighters that he was confident with. So my thought process was at the very beginning, go ahead and get my Yananga in and hope that he takes Bigfoot. So my thought process was I go ahead and lock in a fighter that I'm really confident with. He gets a fighter he's really confident in, but I believe that my fighter has the winning matchup of those two. So if they were to face each other, worst case scenario, I think I'd come out on top. So and then those got banned out, and so neither of us got them. And so my thought process was I lock in Wukong under the pretense that he gets like Bigfoot, Sinbad, and Beowulf, which all tend to struggle against Wukong. So my thought process was I take Wukong and maybe guard against it. And I was going back and forth about whether or not I wanted to take T-Rex or Bigfoot and who I'd have more fun playing against. But anyway, long story short, my thought process was the more bans that we get, the better.
Yeah.
Because the more we start getting into the bottom of the barrel, the more that I have fighters that I'm confident with that he's might not necessarily be. For example, I think Little Red Riding Hood was his 4th pick, that was pretty good into my lineup. but he'd only played Little Red once or so. So that's why she remained unassigned. So I got, even though he got a fighter that was pretty good into my lineup, he didn't feel comfortable assigning it just from inexperience, and which was my end goal, was the more bans, the better.
Yep, that's what we had predicted as well. We figured, well, the deeper into the roster that you can push it, the better off you're going to be, and it looks like it paid off, so good stuff there. I want to open it up to the other commentators. Any of you guys have any specific questions or comments for Chad?
Is that your wife?
Surprise visitor.
All right.
Yeah, Goods told us to say hi, so this is during my thank yous, I guess, but
It's your
at
cheering
that.
squad.
yeah, absolutely. Couldn't
That's
do it without
awesome.
him.
So your wife Ashley, I mean, she made it to the top 8 herself, did she not?
She did, yeah. She made it to top 8. She just lost to Taylor, who is playing his match later today, which should be a great match. So highly recommend anybody that's watching this first part to definitely catch the second part of this. And if Taylor makes it, then I've got some vengeance to take care of.
That's right. That's right. It's going to be a spicy match if that happens. But yeah, that's awesome. Really, I'm just really looking forward to the match tomorrow. Now, I also want to ask you about the format. So, as you know, the format is going to be a best of 5 instead of a best of 3. As the grand finals, we have to make it a spectacle, right? So it's got to be special. And so you're going to have to pick 5, and you're going to have to play all 5. You're going to have to assign all 5. And I know we've done a little bit of practice on that, but what are your overall thoughts going into that new format?
Yeah, so from our practice, I think we've kind of come out of it saying, look, it's impossible to avoid like some stuff being a problem. So I think, like, for example, a Wukong Sinbad, right? That could occur. And there are 5 matches, so it's impossible to avoid all counter picks. So I think that the point is that I've kind of reached is your goal is just to find 3 games that you can probably win. So that's kind of what you're looking for is assigning your fighters in such a way that you're pretty confident that you can take 3 of them. You don't need to win all 5, so you're not assigning them like, oh, if this happens, if this slight chance happens, then it's in my favor. I think you want to play it more safer in general and just shoot for winning 3 of the 5 rather than play maybe a little riskier with your fighter assignments, but risk, losing that.
Yep, I agree. I think it's more about, like you said, just find your 3 comfort picks and go from there and hope you can get the wins with those ones. But with, it's so hard to line up the counter picks and whatnot with 5 matches, so it's going to be really interesting to watch. I cannot wait for that. I'm sure you're excited as well to play it. You'll be the first and only one to have played a best of 5 Arsenal, to my knowledge at least. So that'll be pretty cool. But again, Chad, I mean, just congratulations. You've done fantastic every single tournament that you enter, of course. So we're rooting for you to go all the way this time, and it's going to be fun to watch. But before we sign off, I mean, any last words from any of the commentators? Otherwise, we'll
Who would you rather play?
Oh, that's a good one.
Sorry, what was the question?
Who would you rather face in the finals?
Who would I rather face? Ooh. So I do think I want to face Taylor just because he took out Ashley. That's appealing to me. But I've been playing a lot recently. We did some play testing and I co-commentated with him. And I had a lot of fun just hanging out with Darkblade. So honestly, I could see it going either way. I think I'll have a fun match either way. But I think it'd be kind of cool if Taylor, beat Ashley and then made it to Grands, and then her husband, at the end of the day, won it. So if not, if Taylor makes it and I end up losing, then when Declan reaches his prime, then he'll have to smash Taylor into the ground.
Yes.
The next
As it
Unmatched
will
prodigy. That's great.
Absolutely.
All right. Any of you other guys, any final words for Chad?
Just
Yeah, I
good
wanna
luck, brother. Look forward.
Go ahead, Nar. Didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, I want to congratulate Chad again, and making third time for the finals. It just means that there is a little bit room to grow up and go over. So I'll hope you'll soon grow up and make it.
Yep. Take it all the way.
Yeah,
And
appreciate it.
well, Chad, before we sign off here, you wanna, I guess, plug your YouTube channel and any final words from you?
Sure, yeah. My username that I have here on the screen is the same for my YouTube channel, Unmatchad. I thought it was clever, so that's why I have it there. Haven't done any videos recently just because of the tournament. I haven't had a lot of free time. But after the tournament, I've got some ideas planned to do some more endgame puzzles, especially ones that have occurred to me and that I've witnessed online. So very excited to do that and hop into that. So if you wouldn't mind subscribing for that content, that would be great. And then, yeah, once again, just super thankful for Ashley and Declan and just how supportive she's been to do this. You know, you don't often hear, you know, just like, hey, yeah, go ahead and do this tournament for 2 months. You know, eat up some weekends and stuff. And then you also probably don't hear, hey, instead of you just doing that, how about I do it as well? So, super fun to just been talking about matchups and pick bands and all this stuff, you know, with my wife. So super fun. So super grateful there. So yeah, just happy to be here. And you know, I've talked to John about this, but just super grateful for the TOs to keep putting on these tournaments because I think if there weren't like regular tournaments with this game, I probably still wouldn't be in the community just playing this game because I wouldn't really have something to be like pushing towards. Like I'd still play the game regularly, but I don't think I'd, you know, be as active. So just because of the tournaments, I think that's why I'm still here. So I really appreciate that from you guys. So thank y'all. And thank you, commentators. I know I see a lot of new faces from last year, so that's really cool to just see that growing. So I hope that continues.
Yep, definitely. All right, well, Chad, thank you again. Good luck in the finals tomorrow. We will look forward to commentating, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thanks.
No problem. All right, so we are going to wrap up the stream here for the first semifinal. So again, Chad does come away with a 2-0 victory over Jason, and we'll be moving on to the grand finals, which will start tomorrow, the same spot, this Twitch channel, at 10 a.m. Eastern, bright and early. So I hope you all will return for that. But before that, again, we have the Baked Goods versus Darkblade match coming up in a bit. So that's going to be actually just over an hour, it looks like, from now. About an hour and 15 minutes. We will be starting up with Baked Goods versus Darkblade. So I hope you all don't go too far. You know, go out and grab a bite for lunch and come back for some more unmatched action. It's going to be a fantastic match, I'm sure. Cannot wait. So before we end the stream here, I just want to say again, thank you to all you commentators. Mike, Dylan, Anar. I mean, you guys were great. It was a pleasure having you commentate with me, and it's a big help. Much appreciated. So thank you again. And I guess I'll give each of you guys just a chance to sign off. If you got anything you want to plug, go ahead. But got any last words, Mike?
Thanks for having me. Thanks for dealing with all my mess-ups throughout the stream. Hope you guys loved my wonderful king of wrong opinions and wrong thoughts of the future. That being said, most of you may know Defender Resolves First. It's a podcast. I am the busiest person on earth the past 2 months, so it's hard to get episodes out. But they are going to be on the way. I can promise you that. We probably do 2 at once, at least, just to kind of try to make up for all this stuff. So, on all the platforms, Defender Resolves First, Unmatched podcast. If you want to be on it, let us know.
Yes, it's a great podcast. Everybody check it out on, Spotify or wherever you watch podcasts. So they also upload them to YouTube. You can follow their YouTube channel and get the uploads there. But it's a lot of great content about Unmatched, just various topics, and involving a lot of the community members, which is the coolest part. So like Mike said, if you want to get on the podcast, contact them, and they'd be happy to have you on to discuss whatever topic. So shoot them your ideas and your requests, and they'll they'll see if they can make it happen. But it's a great podcast. So well said, Mike. And then how about you, Dylan? I know you got a bit of a YouTube channel yourself, huh?
Well, it's small. It's very inspired by Bakes Goods guide videos. Right now, I only have Ghost Rider and Moon Knight. Electra is the next one on the chopping block. If you're interested in guides, having a little bit of fun, laughing at me being having wrong opinions, there's my my YouTube channel is HELPivFALLN. It'll probably be posted somewhere as well. But I'd like to just extend a thanks to everybody who's either a tournament organizer, my fellow commentators, and the man Alan himself behind the scenes. He does a lot of magic. It wouldn't be this nearly the same without his great production value. And it's been an honor on this stream, and I hope you'd have me again in the future.
All right, thanks a lot, Dylan. Yeah, we'll make sure to get a link to your YouTube channel out. It's in the chat right now, so everybody go check it out. He's got some fun guides to watch, so definitely watch those. And Anar, how about you? Any last words before you sign off here?
Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for having me. Unfortunately, I don't have any YouTube channel to just post it here, but I want to say it's an honor for me to participate in such of event and tournament. It was a lot of fun to commentate with you guys, and thank you so much.
Yeah, Anar, thank you for joining. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and maybe we'll have you back again for another one in the future. So, yeah, again, thank you to all you commentators, and then once again, thanks to Restoration Games for just being so supportive of everything with the Unmatched community. They are just the best. So if you haven't played Unmatched, definitely try it out, and you'll be jumping into one of the best gaming communities out there, because Restoration is just amazing. It cannot be overstated. So thank you, Restoration, for everything you do. And thank you to all the players in Summer of Legends, all the spectators, everybody involved. Of course, the TOs, my fellow tournament organizers. There's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes, so it's greatly appreciated. And of course, to Alan, 645 Development, for being the man behind the magic of this all. I'm sure we will get him on camera at some point, but he just does such a fantastic job putting on such a great production, and I think that does help kind of push the boundaries of what this game can do, you know, competitively. And like Chad said, it just really makes it something special and something to strive for. So part of what draws the players in is the great production. So Alan, thank you so much for that. And I think that's about it. So again, everybody, don't go too far. We're going to have Baked Goods versus Darkblade coming up in just over an hour on this same channel. So we will hopefully catch you all in the next one. So thank you, everybody, for watching, and we will see you soon.